Oh, okay. That's
All right,
interesting.
we're back.
All right.
I think brought us back because we already got 10 people here, 14 thumbs up.
Oh yeah, then it must be.
How did it bring it back?
There was
the same one.
There was 10 on the original one.
Maybe I caught it just in time or something to refresh from the last one. But anyway, sorry guys, we got cut off. Hopefully it won't happen again.
Yeah, they looted our Wi-Fi.
Yeah, they jogged over our connection.
Actually, I don't know if it did connect because it's not pulling up.
Yeah, I named this one episode 26 extended. So usually when it crashes, I'll create the same thing but then call it extended. I don't know why I do that, but that's just what I started doing.
Here we go.
So hey, it works. That's how I usually catch you guys, and then I make sure that I hit the react, or the button on both of them.
So is there anything else? It's important. Anything else you want to add, bro, and chime in about?
No, that was the main thing. I just wanted to call in about that whole a man killed another man, and if you feel anything more than just that being the fact, then you should probably really analyze why it is that you're feeling that it's more than just that.
Yeah.
Like who taught you that? Where did you get those ideas from?
Well, I know
That's
exactly
what I'm trying to tell a lot of people.
Like anybody who has grown up in a manipulative household and overcame it can acknowledge and recognize those same, same tactics. And if you notice, like people that are born with just single mothers, and because mothers are more emotional and do they're just different. And I grew up in a house like that, and so seeing these kind of things where they're trying to manipulate you. And you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You're racist if you're silent, and you're racist if you speak out. And they're just all trying to pigeonhole you into saying, okay, you can only speak up and talk about it if you're white, if you agree with everything we say, and you just be our cosign. And it's all manipulation, and evil loves to control. So, love is freedom. God loves us enough to allow us to be free and to seek Him ourselves. If we want to walk off a cliff, He's not going to stop us. But, anything that's controlling is not of God, for sure.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest things that we saw was that on social media especially, when you share these opinions, you talk about the statistics that show that white blacks are not being hunted, and in fact they're exaggerating this to justify the burning and looting of our cities, you realize that people don't want you to say something. They want to shut you down. They don't want a conversation. They want you to just sit there quietly, and they'll tell you when to speak and what to say. And that's not love at all. Like, we don't have to agree, but if you're trying to silence someone and control their voice, you are by definition.
Well, yeah, they're playing God. Yeah. They think that their reality or the way that they think that thing ought to be, that's how it has to be, without ever thinking about how. Well, where did you get that idea of reality from? Where did that come from?
That came from the way you're raised. And that's what I want
people to think about. Is it a reality that you lived, or is it something that you saw on a screen? Is it a movie or a TV show, print media?
It's all of the things. It's everything combined. It's all.
That's what makes me question it, is why the people are so woke, and they know that the system is a controlling factor for everyone else's lives. Why can't they analyze that and be like, oh, that's what's controlling me? If the media, if the news reporters, if the celebrities, if everything is for what I am saying, shouldn't that be an indicator of oh, wait a minute, maybe I'm being controlled?
Well, nobody is going to be able to really, well, not nobody, but a lot of people are going to never believe it's them. The insane person never knows they're insane. And then, they turn against the people that love them enough to tell them the truth. And they surround themselves with a bunch of enablers, just like the heroin addict. He's not going to hang out with people that don't do heroin and tell him not to. He's going to hang out with the people that are like, no, it's good, man. It turns all your bad feelings into good feelings.
That's fine, man, yeah. You have a reason to do that. It's not your fault. It's, the abuse you had as a child is why that's happening, or because you lost your job, or whatever reason they'll make up. Yeah, it's just
And
find
you know,
an excuse
if you
and
notice,
go with it.
if you notice, people on the left usually always overcome the left. Not always, but the ones that are on the right that came from the left. There's a lot. There, I've never seen anybody who was on the right, conservative values and stuff like that, and switched over to the left. But you always see the left
Oh no,
switching
yeah,
over to
I
the
can
right.
abide by that. Yeah,
You know
I
what I'm
was
saying?
a very, very almost radical socialist following Che Guevara and all those people until eventually, I grew up, I started to work, and
It goes
got
to
into
show
a committed
you.
relationship, and then I'm like, oh, these taxes are fucking bullshit.
Hey,
Switch
whoa,
them
watch
out,
the
bro.
F-bombs. Watch the F-bombs.
It also it goes to
Sorry,
show you
my
that
bad.
it goes to show you that the left can be overcome, but the right is not something to overcome because it has to do with maturity, adulting, growing up, and taking accountability and responsibility for yourself. And you never see anybody on the right going, "Oh wow, I realized that I was wrong, and now I'm going to be on the left." It just you don't see it.
I've heard of people being like that, but I think it's not legitimate. I think it's an act. I think they're trying to balance out that whole switching over thing, because the way they describe, like, I realized I was wrong, working hard and committing to my family and being a responsible adult, that's not the way to go. I need the state to take care of me. It just didn't sound authentic.
Right. Well, dude, thank you for calling in, bro. We're gonna see if we can get some other callers on here, but thanks for the support, bro.
Absolutely, man. I
on.
appreciate you guys. It was a great show. Just wanted to share that one man killed another man idea. All the reactions I got from that just blew my mind because it's so neutral, but yet they can find offense to it and get angry. That anger was like, oh, I understand now. This is something more.
For sure, man.
Anyways, thank you guys.
Appreciate it, brother.
Later, Danny.
We need a
Take
little,
care. Bye.
little button or something so you don't have to keep getting up.
It's all good. Do you believe that God created nations?
Well, he helped me actually see it a different way, and that we think of nations as dividing of the land, but before the land came the people, right? And people of different ethnicities claimed different nations, and then they became a people. Like China became Chinese people, Africa became African people, European or European people. So the nations, I never really thought of it that way because in school we grow up thinking nations are just the names of the countries and the nations. But it makes sense that because there are different ethnicities, that's what it represents, and it makes total sense.
Right. The different nations that the Bible refers to and that God made are the different peoples. The white people, the black people, the Hmong, the Asians. That's uniqueness.
We got a caller. Hopefully they're not an angry troll.
Yeah, let's see first. Okay. It's my black stepdad who left me as a kid. What's up, my black stepdad?
He's back.
He black. What's cracking, bro?
What's going on, guys?
You like my jacket?
Yeah, it was pretty sweet. I'm not gonna hate.
I'm waiting for someone to say, "That's a beta jacket, man. It's got flowers on it,
No,
man.
that's
It's
pretty
too
sick.
bright, bro."
Yeah, I get it. It's like vintage. Where'd you get it?
It's all good. It was on sale. I got it at this store called Top Shop before they closed. It was on sale on the sale rack.
Yeah.
So, as a stage
There you
performer, I gotta have the stuff that gleams. I sat in the closet. I was like, you know what? You could dress like a bum and throw this jacket on and you're good.
Yeah, falling on a budget.
Right. So what's on your mind, bro? What's cracking?
So check this out. It's funny that you guys were talking about nations because this is all going to lead to what kind of a day I've been having today. So I know Richard follows me on Instagram. I have posted something today about that whole stupid black square thing. I had posted a picture and I had put 3 sheep on it, and I put a big old statement saying, "Hate me if you don't like me speaking the truth. Hate me for this and this and that and that." So my friends started commenting on it, and typical thing, my friends are pardon my language, they're asses about it. You know what I mean?
What was that? I didn't catch it.
So I post something on my Instagram.
Yep.
And then it's something saying about
what I put, hate me for speaking the truth, hate me for standing up, hate me for this and this and that and that. So then my friends start commenting on it, and then my friends are acting like asses about it, leaving like like just putting stupid stuff on my Instagram. And I was like, damn, that's messed up. Like even for something like this at a time right now, these people are still not opening up to hear what I have to say and something like that. Just because I thought something different, typical my friends are gonna start clowning on me and look at this and look at that,
Right.
So do you believe that that there are there unique nations?
Unique nations?
Because basically the world would have you believe, and all these intellectuals and these supposed movements like BLM and all that, even though they contradict themselves, they want you to think that, oh, there are no, we're all the same, we're all just one. And I don't disagree that we're not human, we are all human, but we are unique peoples, not modern day countries, but the whites, the Africans, the Asians. Like if you go back far enough, they were unique peoples with their own unique values and cultures.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because God did say He made the different nations, and He's not talking about I made Uganda and Serbia. He's talking about the peoples. I made unique peoples, and some work together, and some don't.
Yeah, I kind of see it like a football team. Yeah, they're all football players, but each player plays a different position, and their attributes are going to be different than others. That's what I think about it right now. So pop to my mind.
I think he made the people, but man made the culture.
Right. I know. I agree with that. And culture, it's so idolized these days, where everybody is so caught up in their culture when it's like you don't get your identity from your culture.
Exactly.
You shouldn't. A lot of people do, and that's the problem.
And in the post I had made today, I had mentioned something like that, like remove yourself from the culture, and all my friends were going crazy.
Yeah.
And then I look it up today. I'm reading Bible verses, and I find something that has to portray to what I was talking about today.
Yeah.
That there is no such thing as race, as culture. That makes more sense to me. Like, yeah, that's true. I don't identify with being Mexican.
Right.
And I grew up around it, and I know what it's like, but I'm not like, oh yeah, I'm Mexican. I'm not like that.
Right. Same here. I'm Irish. I've been to Ireland. I got to see it. I didn't have any oh wow, I'm discovering who I am now. I didn't have any of that. I was just like, damn, that's crazy. That this is the way it was, and this is what my heritage is. But I didn't identify with it at all.
Yeah.
Because I'm American. I didn't grow up in that. It blows my mind when I see these white people apologizing for their ancestors or whatever happened a long time ago that they have nothing to do with. Like, since when do you apologize for someone else?
Right.
Exactly.
I think
it's
important to
get over it.
Yeah, it's important for I don't identify with all white people, just like blacks should identify with all black people. But I do recognize that I share a lot of traditions and values with the general white population of this country, which are Christian white, white folks. But I'm a mixed kid, so I have no problem saying that, and that does not contradict my belief that in the end, my real people will be the ones who share my values. It just so happens that most of the white Americans share those values with me, and there are plenty of black Americans and like yourselves, Mexicans, who believe in freedom and the right to bear arms, and that anger is a sin. Those are my people. In the end, I will have their back. I will still even protect someone who disagrees with me. I wouldn't let a mob, if I could help it, I wouldn't let them destroy even my worst enemy. I would still come to his aid. It doesn't mean I'll ever agree with him, because again, you got to defend what's right. If someone's attacking someone unjustly, we have a right to defend them, even if that person hates us. We should still defend them.
And I'm not gonna lie, when I had read my friend's comments, I don't know why, but throughout the day I was kind of letting it get to me. I wasn't all emotional about it, but I was just thinking throughout the day, like, man, that's messed up. Now my friends their true colors are starting to come out.
Yeah, no, I've had this experience, the same thing, man. And in the beginning, when all the people that I thought were my friends started turning on me and questioning where I come from, my intentions, my heart, like because these are people that I know in person, that I've hung out with, that I've done things for, that
Yeah.
And the more and more people would turn on me, and the more it would happen, the more I became like wow, it's my fault for putting people in a box in my own head to think that they are whatever they are to me in my head, because I notice, like, for me, right, if you're dealing with somebody who's a liar, they're gonna think everyone's lying. If you're dealing with somebody who is always honest, they're gonna think everyone's honest, and I lived that way where I assumed that people were like me because of the way I was, when that's naive, and now that I'm more objective, I can be like, wait a second, just because I have things in common with this person or whatever it is, I like their personality, it doesn't mean they're my friend at all. It just means that, it just means nothing, really.
Yeah.
I feel you, though.
That's a trip.
It gets easier, bro. Just keep speaking up the truth, because if you love what's right and stand for what's right, that's your friend.
Yeah.
And everyone else that needs to be in your life, to be added in your life, it's just a process, like you gotta, trim the fat.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because throughout the whole day, I had that little voice in my head saying, "What if I am wrong? What if this is crazy?" And I was like, "Nah, that can't be." I'm like having like the devil in my head going back and forth, and I'm like, this is fucking nuts.
No, yeah, for sure, but at least you can identify that.
At work all day, I'm just like, man, and like part of my language, I'm like, ain't this some shit, like life's a trip, and I'm talking to people at work about it. And just like you said, there's a white kid at work. I get along more with him because we have that same value.
Right.
I work with a couple younger kids who are like third generation Mexicans, and they don't hate me because they see that I'm cool with them and I keep it real. But then when I start speaking up my values, they get all mad, like, "Oh, you're crazy. I don't know what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. You gotta stop listening to that reverend. He's having you brainwashed." I'm like, man,
yeah.
What do you guys do?
And I realized too, because I'm a musician and I've played music that is like black soulful kind of music and stuff, that I thought that I was loved for me, but I realize now, like, I was only pretend loved because I was a novelty in the circles. That I was the white guy that did this kind of music, and I was naive to see through it. I couldn't see it, and now that I'm like seeing that what's right and what's wrong is not a color, and I'm just standing for that. All the people are coming out of the grass and just like turning against me, trying to stomp on my character of who I am and all kinds of stuff. But I don't question myself anymore, so it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, speaking of that, some of the people in the chat, like I was telling them how many of your supposed black musician friends have basically given you hell just for being honest, and you haven't said anything from hate. And then, like Queen Butterfly says, they basically don't like you because you sing and probably do soul music better than them. Well, it comes from like this jealousy and this hate.
Well, see, the same people that were like, "Wow, you're really talented, you're really awesome, you're really dope, whatever." The same people that were saying that are, now that I'm speaking up what I see, they're saying that I'm just riding the coattails of black culture and that I'm trying to capitalize off of it, and I'm parading around town making black friends for clout and all kinds of stuff. When it's like, I've had my own shows, I put up my own flyers, so the people that came to me, like, I can't control what anyone does, and I've always been genuine. Even if I was asleep and blind in certain ways, I never came from a place of trying to just, capitalize off of black people or anything like that. I always knew
what was right. I wasn't really fully awake, but I got it,
Yeah.
But anyway, go on.
No, I hear you, man, because I've always had that seed, and it's just been sprouting, and then when I hit that point where I was like, wait a second, I can't believe that I was seeing it through a distorted lens, and now that but whatever.
Just Happy says that Trevor Wesley's in the same boat as Elvis Presley, but that's a good problem to have.
Sure.
Yeah, no, it's true. Like they're just trying to. When people are angry, they'll do whatever they can to try and make you feel bad or shame you or paint you as some kind of villain. No one owns soul music. It's not black music. It's not white music. It is just music. It's certain people jump on things early and pioneer. Yeah. Where's the credit for white people with classical music? And that gets sampled in hip-hop,
it's stupid to think of it in credit. That's why it's better to give all glory to God, because we're not creators. We just can discover. You know, people discover things.
Yeah.
And so when we start taking credit for it, it's like saying that I'm riding the coattails of black culture because of the music I play. That's like if I went to someone and said, you're riding the coattails of white people because you have electricity in your house. You know, it's stupid. Let's all enjoy life together and stop trying to take credit for everything. It's
enjoy
crazy.
it for what it is. You know,
Exactly.
Don't get too caught up into it. And I think today was really an eye-opener for me because now I'm starting to speak up more. And today was like the first day I was like, damn, this thing is really hitting me. Not hitting me like that, but like, damn, this is it, you know?
Yeah.
Everything with seeing what's going on, and then my own experiences with at work. And even when I told my mom that me and my girlfriend are in that talks of getting married, my mom tells me, no, don't do it. It's not the right thing to do. Don't do what society tells you what to do. I'm like, what the?
That's just mama being mama.
Yeah.
Well, with her situation, I have another brother who's on his third marriage. So.
Damn.
You know,
beta.
Exactly. And he's still living there with my mom with this girl and three other kids.
Oh my
One of
God.
them is hers from another marriage, and two of them are from her.
What does it feel like
oh.
to be the son of the devil herself?
I don't know, man. I really don't I get along with my family, but I'm like, I can't.
No, I feel you, bro.
Cool to see.
The key is not to hate them for it and to just understand.
No.
You know, and I'm not telling you that you do. It's just for anyone that can hear it and relate to it. You know, like I went through the same thing of having to let go all the expectations and pedestals I put my parents on. You know, everyone thinks their parents are perfect in God when they grow up as kids, and they gotta realize that where they're wrong so that they can overcome it. And your brother probably just never overcame your mom, and just like she's imposing on you, telling you, you know, don't listen to society and tell you what she thinks you should do. She's like stunting you as a man to be able to make your own decisions and see for yourself. And your brother probably just started taking her advice since a kid and never was able to make his own decisions. You know?
Yeah.
I never thought about it that way.
It's huge too in the Latin community. Like, you know, I'm half Jungle Mexican. That side is basically a Salvadorian mix with a Spaniard, and they put the mothers on a pedestal, and she runs the house, not the father. And it's so common for the family just to all stay under one roof. You know, like 15 people to a house.
Yeah.
You know, with 35 cars parked on the street. It's not. That's what you can always tell a Spanish neighborhood. Like, there's no parking anywhere.
Yeah.
You know.
Exactly.
And it's just.
It makes me think of when we went to Oregon and when we had stayed at the Airbnb. You said something like that.
Yeah. As soon as I saw cars everywhere and there's no parking, I'm like, yeah, Mexicans.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's not hating Mexicans. That's just seeing.
That's an observation.
It's true. Like.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't get mad. I'm Mexican, and when people make fun of the men, okay, it's funny because it's true.
Right. But dude, thank you for calling, man.
Yeah. So that's one day, real quick. All day was just that was like driving me nuts. So.
Well, that's good that you could identify it, bro, and see that it's your imagination and it's Satan trying to seduce you into feeling some kind of way and second guess and question yourself. But the more you just see it like a cloud and you're like, dang, like that's a thought, and you don't fall for it, the more you'll be able to identify it fast and easy and grow in that. So you know, eventually it'll die away. Once you stop feeding it, bro, if you stop feeding an animal, it'll die.
And I was realizing too, like the old me would have been like, oh, all like moody about it, but now it's like trip out. You know, I was laughing about it.
Right, that's good, bro.
Yeah. All right, let you guys go then.
All right, man. Take care, bro. Be safe.
All right. Yeah. Thank you too.
There was a guy, the guy on Facebook, my Facebook friend, Mike Black, who's just as base. Like, this guy also defends, you know, and points out how white people need to stop being so weak. You know, and it's coming from the same place. He knows Jesse and he knows that message.
That's what's
So,
up.
Mike, if you're still in the chat, bro, I'd love to hear from you. I think you got a voice that I think the chat would find interesting. So, 818.
818-308-5559.
Mike Black. Give me a call, brother. Let's see what the chat's talking about. anyone see the Alphas take over downtown cities with their scoped rifles in Washington and Idaho? Hell yeah! I showed Trevor that video of those guys in Coeur d'Alene. Some of those states, that's where you want to be. You want to be, like, if you're a good, decent person, I mean, no man is good, but if you're a decent person who has values, whether you're black, white, pink, purple, you want to be around white people like that because they think the same thing as you do. They just want to have their freedom and not be imposed upon.
And that's not all white people. Of course, there's evil, good on all sides of people. But they're calling white people racist for anything now.
Yeah, and then people are showing those videos of them being fully armed, defending their town, and they're saying, look at these white supremacists. It's like, why? Because they're white men who are not scared? It's like, you can see the bias. They want you to be scared of white people who stand up for themselves. If a black gets attacked, it's a hate crime against black. If a Jew gets attacked, it's anti-Semitic attack. If an Asian guy gets attacked, it's anti-Asian. But if a white guy gets attacked and they want to talk about it, it's, hey man, that's not a white thing. It's just, some mentally ill person or a terrible thing. But you can't, it's just they don't want white people to ever have that spine. So don't let them convince you of that, Defend what is right, regardless of color.
Don't defend what's white. Defend what's right. But yeah, call in, guys. 888-308-5559.
Credit Solutionist is learning how to farm. She's growing herbs and things in her apartment.
Shit.
So yeah, keep practicing.
Growing
Mike,
herbs in the city.
yeah, Mikey Darko, call in as soon as you can, bro. Like we usually are in for a little bit, but don't wait, bro. Doubt your thoughts. Give us a call. Seth from Oregon says, my farmer uncle followed suit and brought a group of men to another town in Washington, but there's no viral video of it. Yep. Matt says, let's see here. I know where I'm going if anything goes down. I'm about 3 hours away from those Washington towns. Yeah, like you want to surround yourself with people who are not scared, and don't let the media tell you that they hate you. No, they don't hate you. Those guys, Idaho is majority white. They don't hate anybody. They're just not going to put up with that spirit, and they will defend it to the end. And you want to be around people like that. Those are good people. That's what you want. So, trust me, they'll welcome anybody who shares those same values. They don't judge your skin color, but they will judge your character. We all should be a discerning character. Let's see. What else did we miss? Got some new faces in the chat tonight. Nat Turner.
What's up, Matt? By the way, shout out to Matt Kruger. He gave me some amazing maple syrup. I finally got it. He sent it to Jesse's church. It's been sitting there for like a month. Finally got it. I had oatmeal this morning. I poured that maple syrup in there, and it was amazing. So thank you, Matt. Homemade from the city of Indiana, or state. I don't know what city he's in.
I don't know. We won't give a city away, but he's in Indiana, southern Indiana. It is some of the best syrup I've ever had. Trevor let me try a sample, and it just tasted like waffle breakfast. It was.
You weren't lying when you said drinking it, because it's drinkable for sure.
Yeah, you can literally just sit there and eat the whole thing with a spoon. It's
I felt
amazing.
like a bee, or like I like bees like to.
Oh, that reminds me. There was an old animated cartoon where it's the bees and they're building their honeycombs and all that. I forget what it's called, but
Honeycomb cereal?
something like that. But it was a cool little cartoon where you see the honey all
Honey Nut
liquid
Cheerios?
and.
Honey Nut Cheerios?
It was like a Disney cartoon or something, or Warner Brothers. But yeah, honey and syrup is so good. Oh yeah, Mikey's ready. Okay, here, Mike. Let's keep the lines open for Mikey Black. 5559. Yeah, Matt's in the process of building up his sugar shack to actually separate building
Sugar Shack.
to develop it.
Come on down to Matt's Sugar Shack. We got lots of sugar for you in our shack. So if you feel like shacking up with sugar, you want some sugar and shacking up, come on down.
All right. Farming for the apocalypse. Yeah, we should all learn how to take care of ourselves and do for self. It's useful, And of course, it's going to take time at first, but don't get in your head and say, well, that's going to take forever. Just start. You know, you want to build a bird feeder, just go on YouTube and just start doing it. By the time you're done with it, even if you just go halfway, you'll already learn something, you'll be more confident, and it just gets better. It's a process, but you'll never grow into it if you don't start. And trust me, after about a year of doing any one task, you will become pretty proficient at that task.
So come on down.
Like Matt, he's super handy. That dude's like he's a homestead legend.
Yeah, so Mike, if you want to call in, it's 818-308-5559. Come on down and call the number.
Shelly and where was she from? I think Wyoming? Or no, Dakota, South Dakota, I think. She says, after gardening, it's time to start hunting. That's right.
Hey, that could be taken out of context.
Yeah, and I highly, highly encourage people who, if you don't own a gun, everyone should own a gun. The world's convinced people to think that someone's going to come to your defense. You are your first line of defense, and you just need to overcome the emotions that have been put into you about weapons, all the fake facts where they say owning a gun makes you more likely to shoot yourself or your family member. That is a lie. They mix in all kinds of stats, suicides, even just the shooting of you defending your home gets mixed into that figure. You know, it's just not true. You know, everyone needs, just like in the old days, all the knights, all the guys in the Middle Ages would walk around with their sword. You would never leave your home without your sword because you need to defend yourself at all times.
At the end of the day, the more we can become accountable and be powerful in our own lives, especially as men, in all areas of our life, then that's what we need to live for, in God's righteous way of doing what's right, and being powerful in our lives, and not you know, it's like when you're a kid, you have your parents, and it may seem like a good thing at the time when they're like doing things for you, and you know, that's what happened to me. Is I had people doing things for me all the time. And then you get older, you don't have anyone around to do things for you all the time. So you look at the government, and the government becomes your daddy, and you expect the government to do things for you. So I want for everybody what I would want for myself, which is to just be powerful, accountable, and grow, so that we're conditioned to take on anything that comes our way, and we can handle it without feeling like a victim, and you know, just be strong men.
Right. I mean, I don't have a wife or kid, but I know that
You have a husband.
I got a husband. But I know for sure that I would want them, and if I do get that added to my life, they're gonna know how to fire a gun. I'll start the kids off at an early age. They need to know, because they're not just a child. They are an adult that is about to be, you know, they're to be determined adult. They're going to be that someday. So you need to raise them as the way you want them to live as an adult. They need to be taught those things. Don't wait till they're 18 to start those lessons. It starts right away. As soon as they pop out of the womb, you throw a little pea shooter in that kid's hand and get them comfortable with it. And then you teach the young girls how to be upright women and chaste and not whore around and start OnlyFans accounts. Mike, hold on. He said he tried calling. My phone's tripping.
I didn't see anything.
Yeah, hold on, Mike. Try it again, because it's not ringing, even though my volume's all the way up. Matt says, they will be butchered at 16 weeks old by my children. I'm not going without fried wings this winter. Matt bought like 50-something chickens. Victoria's right. She says, a lot of us have been putting it off and regret it now. Yeah, don't put it off. Get weapons. You know, I get messages all the time from some of the stories I share where I'm pushing hard for people to buy guns. Oh, here we go.
One, to send a voicemail, press 2.
Yeah.
Mr. Mike Black. What's up, buddy?
Hey, how you doing, man?
Man,
real quick before we start talking, I'm not sure what to call you. Your name on Facebook is NFL. Is that what you go by?
No, just call me Rich or Beard Dude.
Rich, okay. Sounds good, man. How are you guys doing tonight?
Oh, amazing. How you doing, Trevor?
I'm good. All is well.
It's good to hear from you, man. Like, I'm glad that we connected on there. And
Is this Mike Black?
this is Mike Black, the one I've been sharing his posts.
He black?
He Black. Oh, I don't know. Are you black, Mike?
He sounds white.
No. I'm a white guy. I use a different last name because people with my politics get doxxed, they get harassed, they get their jobs called, they get fired.
Yeah,
So-
no, that's the truth, man. Like, it's out of control, and those are the same people who think that they have values and they act like evil little demons just because you disagree with them.
Well, I think it goes into a larger point on being like psychologically programmed. I think that's part of it. I think it's that reaction is mostly instinct. It's not well reasoned. It's not thought out.
Yeah. So what can you help us understand, man? Well, anything that's on your mind with what's been happening and that you can see?
Well, discontent would be an understatement, I would say. I think that it is a part of an aspect of the logical conclusions of this neoliberal idea of egalitarianism, a non-distinct homogeneity, that we are all the exact same mantra, things along those lines. I think this is just a single natural logical conclusion to that worldview.
Yeah,
especially on a broad scale.
The whole, and I know you've seen some of the posts I share, but the whole idea that diversity is strength, and that, it's the exact opposite. You don't get peace by flooding by smashing two cultures together that are completely opposed to each other in a lot of ways, and they have different values. And let alone on top of that, when you breed hate through media and celebrity propaganda, it's a recipe for disaster, which is why they are pushing mass immigration on the West.
I got a pterodactyl moth in here, and I got this brought to you by Bug Assault. When you want to kill your bugs, do it this way.
Yeah, super cool little gun to have.
This guy's gone.
To your point, I heard you talking earlier, referencing the story of the Tower of Babel, and I think that's a good parallel to draw, because before God separated the nations, what was going on the tower? All of the different nations couldn't understand each other when they were speaking. They couldn't interpret what was being said. I think that's a key point in that story, and it's that people are different, or peoples, plural, are different, and that's why they have issues communicating, understanding each other. I think that's a good way to sort of view what's going on here.
Yeah, they want us to deny that we peoples are different, and the whole multiculturalism is a myth, and you don't see them pushing that kind of propaganda on the Middle East or China or anywhere in Asia, or let alone even in Africa. They are doing it to the West because they need to destroy that. Like, without the West, who's going to stand up to these international forces?
Well, that's exactly why the West has been co-opted, because it's I don't think ultra would be an appropriate word. I think more like advanced civil in the context of civilization.
Right.
All the places you just mentioned, they don't look like what the U.S. looked like in the 50s, and that's because they weren't. And you could argue they can't be that because they aren't that.
Right. It's like I get a lot of flack for that now, but if it's just like you said, just observe. There are no third world nations. There are just third world people. So something about those peoples, they just don't seem to get it together. They cannot self-organize in a way that creates a society that you would see in the West at its peak, in America at its peak. You don't see the architecture. You don't see the freedom in their laws. You don't see those values being held dear. They're very tribal, but not in a good way. They're antagonistic to each other. I mean, just look at the state of Africa in those countries. They don't like even each other. They enslave each other. They rape each other. They kidnap each other's kids and turn them into child soldiers. Like, there's not a sense of I don't know. They're missing something, and they would want you to think that it's the fault of the West. The West just permanently made them that way. But I don't think that's true, because look at China, look at everyone. Like, they've had time to be on their own, and what have they produced? It does not look like what you get in Western countries.
Well, to be fair, in regards to the China point, I'm not apologizing for China or anything, but China is different from some of these other countries in the way that they have had a form of an advanced civilization for thousands and thousands of years. It looks way different than our advanced civilization, but they have a rich history, written language for thousands of years, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you're exactly right. With the like, you could take Africa for example. It's trite, but it's important because it's never talked about. You could look at South Africa, for example. They had the apartheid regime, and then I believe in the 80s, 90s. My timeline's mixed up right now. They had these international power brokers. They came down on South Africa. There was terrorism. Nelson Mandela, famously, was a radical terrorist. He blew up white children on school buses in South Africa. But to get back to the point, apartheid, the apartheid regime fell, and then these diametrically opposite cultures clashed, and the less civilized culture is wreaking havoc upon the peoples of a more European culture. Now, that's just saying objectively. We could have the argument morally about which culture is better and all this and that, but just objectively speaking, these two cultures didn't work. They had a means of separation. That means fell, and then a clash happened, and an entirely predictable ethnic conflict has arose from.
Right. I mean, if you look at, I'm sure you're familiar with Rhodesia. Regardless of the propaganda of what they did wrong, it was an advanced state in Africa, an advanced nation. They had, roads and highways and schools, and there was law and order to a degree, and everyone was prospering. They had farming. They were supplying the majority of all food for the African continent was coming out of Rhodesia. And they did the same thing that they did to South Africa. They brought in these racial tensions, played it up, international forces, and they destroyed it and chased all the white people out. And then what happened? Rampant inflation, wanton murder, just completely became an asshole country. And then they did the same thing South Africa did, is beg the white people to please come back and please keep farming, because now we're suffering. Instead of working together and working out any remaining issues logically, they fall for that same old communist tactic of, let's just hate the other person because I think he's oppressing me.
Well, that's exactly right. Well, look at the style of governments that in these places, South Africa and Rhodesia. What kind of governments are those? Openly, proudly, they don't mince words like Western politicians do, where they hide behind a cloak of Americanism and all that. No, it's like no mince words, no I bleed red, white, and blue, no Nancy Pelosi two-faced act, just straight up their communist governments.
Right. It's
communism is not an African ideology. So
exactly.
So it's not, they didn't co-opt the movement. Infiltration would be a way to put it.
Right, it's subversion, and that's what people don't realize. It's the same old tricks, and if you really just overcome the emotions, you can see how they do this everywhere they go. And and it's just like Jesse's idea of not all, but the truth is most communists, they are Jewish. It comes out of that culture, but they're atheists, and that's why I like to always point out that I see it as the synagogue of Satan, because you're differentiating between those who follow the Torah, those who actually believe in a monotheistic God and believe in some kind of value system, versus those who use that ethnicity, hide behind it to achieve domination.
Yeah, well, we're really getting in the water, aren't we? So there certainly is the left-wing element in regards to Jewish influence, communism,
the early Bolsheviks, stuff like that. But it's very important not to leave out the right-wing factor that plays into it. The more Zionist, the more philo-Semitic wing of the political spectrum in Western politics.
Right. Yeah, no,
Because there are
lots of players involved. It's not just going to be Bolshevik / atheistic Jews. It's everybody. There's obviously Nelson Mandela was a communist and he's not Jewish, but it's anyone who wants power and who's willing to do whatever it takes to get it. They'll all jump on that ship.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's exactly correct. It's not one side of the political spectrum. Whenever you're referring to the international power brokers, there are different wings. There's like on the left, you've got George Soros, communist, the Open Society. I can't remember.
Yeah, Open Society.
I don't have to go. I don't have to go into Soros. I'm sure everybody watching is familiar. But on the right wing, you have the Sheldon Adelsons, you have the Kushners, you have Bibi Netanyahu, you have that wing as well.
Yeah, it's just amazing. That's why I tell people, like, I mean, I've got family who, they're baby boomers. I got aunts and uncles, and some get it, some are based, and they didn't fall for that brainwashing, but a lot of them were raised in the 60s and 70s. That's when they were teenagers, and they got programmed, and they can't see, they only look through that lens of communist, black versus white. They don't see past it. And it's kind of like, I'm sure you've seen that video of that ex-KGB agent out of India, Yuri Bezmenov, who explained, he explained how they achieved this, that they just need to brainwash at least one generation, and then that will self-perpetuate. They will raise their kids with that same idea, and before you know it, the country falls. They're so divided and so blind and so weak that communism has no problem taking over.
Yeah, well, it certainly can happen within one generation, and one generation to the next carries a lot of influence. But this is a lot of this stuff has been going on for a very long time. You could, in terms of the more ubiquitous egalitarian mindset, though we're the same, the only difference is circumstance, stuff like that. You can go back to the first wave feminism, the women's liberation movement. It goes back to there too. The end that they were trying to get to was expanding a tax base, of course, but also it's a seed to which the tree that is egalitarianism, at least in this country in particular, began to grow.
Right. Yeah. It's all been divide. Like there's a great thing. This guy Edward Bernays, who's the nephew of Sigmund Freud, and some people know about it. You probably might know about it, but he was one of the early propagandists in America, and he was the guy, basically one of the major influences in that women's rights movement. And for example, they brought up a story of how he got women to become heavy smokers, a new demographic of smokers, almost overnight, by planting actresses at these women's rights marches back in the days, and would give them cigarettes, and they came up with these catchy slogans. They called them freedom sticks. And after enough time, basically, the demographics of women smokers shot through the roof, and it became another base. And just you see how a good example of how they can play with people on a mass scale, and they have no idea that it's happening.
Exactly. Well, so it's important because we say the word, you hear the words like woke going around, base, stuff like that. For people who are watching this, people who stay engaged politically and do their research, they don't just passively ingest and consume what's being said. It's important to realize for people like us who are more involved and interested that a lot of these people just don't have time, but they don't have interest in time. They could be busy in regards to interests. I think that is a part of the plan insofar as you want a passive people to whom you can control. If you have people people like us who are interested, who are doing their homework, who are thinking about it, you can't lull people. It's the frog in the boiling water. You have to turn the heat up slowly.
and the
Yeah.
frog won't notice it.
No, I noticed that they're casting all kind of spells with words, trends. They're using social media as like a tool to manipulate you. Where most people these days don't think for themselves, and they need to be told by someone how to think and what to think, and then they use social media platforms to try to encourage influence with, culture and all kinds of things, and I can just see through it, man. Like even this Blackout Tuesday thing is like, it's just another tool to try to manipulate and they're basically saying if you don't post this, then you're against us, trying to control to make people pick a side, and it's like it's just bull.
Yeah, well, it's certainly deliberate. It's not like that's another that goes into the point of people need to be interested and engaged. Is people just don't understand that it's deliberate. It goes in with the pathology of just what is the expression? Going with the wind, just going wherever the wave or the tide takes you, stuff like that. It's passivity. That's why. And I also heard you guys talking earlier, or I think Rich had referred to me, and he was mentioning about how I was talking about white people need to stop being weak. They need to be stronger. They need to be aware. That's the thing. It's not just white people, of course. It's other people that are being manipulated in different ways.
Of course, yeah. I mean,
But
blacks need us to...
You have to be aware.
Yeah. Like,
That's the first thing. If you're not aware, you're not going to be receptive to any arguments. You're just going with the flow.
right. It's kind of like like with Jesse, people got on his case about the George Floyd case, and they wanted him so bad just to go in on the cop. And what I take away from Jesse is that he tries to focus on what is the root problem for the different peoples within our country. The root for the black community is the criminality and the hatred that was taught to them and forced into their brains. So what's the point of talking about the fruit that comes out of that root if you're not going to deal with the root? And then the root for the white people is the opposite, the propaganda that you are weak, you come from a shameful people, you have nothing to be proud about, you should apologize for the rest of your life. And so that's his two main things. He just stays on those two things, and he doesn't need to deal with the rest of it.
And both of those issues are in all of us,
Right.
Not me, but a lot of different cultures. Because there's angry white people, there's people who are ashamed of being black. There's the same thing on all sides. But I get what you're saying. In the majority, when you look at a whole, and I'm not one to look at a whole majority of a group of people and then assume they're all people are like that. But it's definitely something to look at. But it doesn't mean that if I meet someone who's black or white or Asian or whatever, that I'm gonna assume they're anything until it's revealed to me who they are.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I would advise more, and this is a broad standard as well, not just along racial lines, but I think as a way to navigate through life, you want to act with some precaution. You don't want to be too trusting. I think Trevor was also mentioning this earlier about how he used to, whenever you're around a bunch of honest people, or whenever you're an honest person, you believe that everybody else around you is honest.
Right.
You have to be. You can't be naive. You have to be. Again, you have to be aware. You have to be conscious.
Right.
Yeah, it's true. Like, stop being naive. Yeah, you always be aware. Like Jesse always tells us in church, he's like, I trust no man. He only trusts God, and it doesn't mean that he doesn't have people close to him. But it's you just don't assume someone is decent just because they've been nice to you for a little while. Like you got to be able to see their spirit and where are they operating from? Which horse are they riding? Like Jesse likes to say, you can't ride two horses at once. You can't serve God and the devil at the same time. So which one are you serving? And until you know that, you shouldn't be just blindly trusting people.
Yeah, that's why I notice people that have hatred. If someone hates one, they hate all. A lot of people hang out with other people because they like to talk crap or gossip on other people, and they think, but little do they know that when they leave, someone's talking about them too. It's just what people's nature are. They like to talk crap, they like to hate and have anger. I notice that within anybody, like when they talk about someone else, they know they're talking about me. They get around somebody else, especially in the industry, that's going to be like, get them somewhere, and they're talking against someone. They're going to agree with them because they just want to get further in their career. They're not going to be able to stand on their own, 2 feet and have their own opinion and stand up for what they think is right, because they don't stand on anything. they're just malleable to anything that's said around them so they can be liked.
Absolutely. Well, evil isn't explicit. Satan isn't always a grotesque worm. He's cunning.
Right.
Yeah,
It's psychological or moral would be more accurate. It's a moral seduction. There's promises made. They won't be kept. But promises made, convenience, ease away.
yeah, Satan is, like, people always get the wrong idea. They think the devil's going to come to you looking grotesque and obvious, and you'll be able to say, yeah, I'm not going to fall for that. No, the devil is the most beautiful, seductive person you'll ever meet.
That's why the hotter the girl is, the more hell she's gonna give you.
Yeah, no, that's another truth. I always tell people, like, it's like, it reminds me of that song that if you want to be happy for the rest of your life, never make a pretty woman your wife, because it's true. The more beautiful that woman is, and growing up in this kind of fallen world, the more health she'll give you, the stronger her ego is. Even if they know Jesse Lee and they get that message, that ego is powerful, and they just end up still just being the same person, but just manipulating the truth to fit what they feel in that moment. You know, like it's amazing.
Exactly. Well, look, for those who aren't Christian, you should be. You should certainly be Christian. But look, if you're not Christian, it's even part of the human condition. Look at the old stories of sirens, right? Beautiful mermaids that sing wonderfully, and they lure you in, and then they get you.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's why, I mean, you always just be careful, because, you know, the devil is beautiful. The devil is a sweet talker. He's not going to just be some nasty looking bum. He'll be the hot girl that tries to get you to play her emotional games and use you, or he'll be that good looking dude that takes advantage of the woman. It's, you know, the devil is everything and everywhere, and he knows the Bible better than any of us. He knows what God's teachings better than us, and so that's why you be careful around intellectuals and Bible thumpers and people who are up in their heads about it.
Well, precisely. Well, not to cast any aspersions towards music. We all love music, but Satan was a musician, right? He was.
Yeah.
That before the fall, he was a musician. People aren't lulled to sleep. People aren't brought in and engaged by ugly brass being hidden with no rhythm, with no sort of organization. No, it's well played. There's a tone to it. It brings you in. It's the same way with evil, and propagandists know this. Absolutely. The more what's the word? Conscious is a word. It's not the one I'm looking for, but conscious. People who are aware of this will, the bad ones will use it to their advantage.
Yeah.
The same way that they're taken advantage of morally, they're aware of it in some way because it's the same kind of tricks that they use on others.
Yeah, and I think about that a lot, like how Satan was a musician, and he, you know, like music is a very seductive thing because it plays off of emotions. You know, like if you watch a movie, scary movie, or any movie that has on mute, it's not going to have the same impact. And so that's kind of like a crossroad where I've been at, because before I waked up, I was making a lot more music, and now because I'm consciously aware that I have the opportunity to capitalize off of people, because I know this, like you said, and I can, you know, it's a delivering of a message, and most people in the entertainment industry use music to seduce people into, you know, ideologies and into evil things, and so I want to be more conscious and aware of that, because I think that's like, music is like, vibration is, and music in itself is, you can't see it, but you can hear it and you can feel it, because it's a worldly thing, and it's a deceiver, because, you know, you could look at this keyboard and be like, yeah, this is an object and it's a physical thing, but you might not see music itself as a physical thing too, and all things that are of the world are physical, worldly things, and music is physical because it's a vibration, and everything is vibration, and it's, you know, people especially in like churches and stuff, these hooping and hollering churches, they're seduced by the music, and they think that they're, you know, they're living in a godly way because they're celebrating the music. But if you're not living right, acting right, that music is just a trick.
Exactly. Well, look, I was to the point of the keyboard not just being an object. I was talking to an acquaintance of mine. I don't know if we'd be considered friends, of the more nihilistic variety, and it comes down to things are made with purpose, right? The keyboard is not just an object; it has a purpose. A shoelace isn't just a piece of cloth; it's made to tie your shoes, keep them secure. It's the same with all
Unless
of
you're
these
in
things.
jail,
Like,
it's made to hang yourself.
Yeah.
yeah, or that. Preferably not, but the option is there, I guess.
So what do you
Don't
think?
do that. It's bad. That's a sin.
Mike,
Go ahead.
what do you think? What do you think we might be heading towards? I'm sure you're obviously up to date on things. I'm sure you know about the people, the QAnon people. You know about the commies. You know all these different ideas. But from your observations, what do you think we're heading towards as we get closer to this election? Do you think that we are on our own? That Trump is not going to do anything for us? That he is controlled and owned by these Zionists? Or do you think that there's some kind of plan to turn this around and right it? What are your thoughts?
Well, it's interesting. So obviously it's hard to predict the future, but what you could do is reasonably deduct logical conclusions of what's going on. So ethnic conflict is no stranger to the world by any means. It's brought down many nations that, in conjunction with other things like usury and sexual perversion and things along those lines, these aren't new tools we're seeing being done. So you could draw upon historic examples to see where we may be going. You could look at maybe Brazil, where the different peoples mix in and everything just kind of crumbles and goes to crap. You could see maybe I don't want to speak explicitly in racial terms, but we could expound on it, but a white consciousness kind of waking up and realizing what's going on, what's being done, and kind of react in a healthy and appropriate way. You could see outright quote-unquote race war, explicit, violent ethnic conflict, more so than the passive, lazy kind of riots and individual crimes that happen at much more frequent rates between some people. The kind of a passive revenge, a passive war, a quiet one. I don't know. I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts, because really I could just, if I had to guess, maybe a slightly more less ugly thing is just a passive, like, balkanization, where people just kind of subconsciously realize what's going on and decide to self-segregate, rather than anything being explicit or any conversation happening, just it happening passively. And then the ethnic conflict happening more geographically rather than sporadically and sprinkled out along population centers and stuff like that. In regards to Trump, I don't know. If things keep going the way it's going, and if he wins in 2020, and the status quo that we have right now remains to be the song being played, so to speak, it's gonna. I think it'll honestly go down as one of the biggest and most epic in proportion lost and wasted opportunities in American history. Because if you guys look at old clips and policy positions and promises from the campaign, his administration has not been anywhere near that. And I think a lot of it goes to having been co-opted by different forces in his administration. Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, Ivanka Trump in a different context. Some of his policy advisors, things like deep state infiltration, stuff like that. Not just ideological individual entities, but there is a deep state, people, neo-Bolsheviks, or just self-interested people that want to maintain the status quo. But his administration is not what it should be. So in regards to political, cultural change, I'm not the most optimistic.
What do you think, Trevor? What's the question?
with everything that's floating around, that's from QAnon theories to what's obvious, the communist issues we're dealing with, where do you think we're heading? Do you think that this is going to turn itself around, or do you think that we are kind of losing a war here?
Well, I always don't like to think of a pessimistic way, or I think it's good to look at the possibilities, like in chess or something. You're gonna look and see where you can lose. But I have faith, and I know that God, in the end, God always wins, and the love is stronger than Satan, than anger and hatred, and I have faith in it. I don't know. I believe in God and what He's gonna do more than people, but I know that people are used for it. So I think that there are positive things about this, because the left has been doing nothing but exposing themselves, and so people are starting to wake up and see, and especially when all this stuff starts to settle, and hopefully, I assume it is going to settle, or it could just get completely worse. But all I can do is prepare, prepare for in my own life. I want to get out of LA, because I don't want to be here when it's just keeps getting insane. But I don't know, because I like you said, the QAnon people, that are really wrapped up in that, they're like, this is all part of the plan, this is what's supposed to happen. I don't trust anything. I'm just going to observe and see what I see, but without having an expectation, so I can just know what to do in the moment when I need to,
Yeah, my take on it is, I've always kept, like, I visualize it like I have multiple files, and I'm building multiple cases, and I'm not concluding on anything. The investigation's not closed. I got a file for Q, I got a file for Soros and this communist agenda, and everything that I do know is that we need to be armed. We need to overcome anger and emotion, so we can have logic return to us and have our identity back. And we need to start surrounding ourselves with other like-minded people, in the sense that, because in the worst-case scenario, like Trevor says, you're a sitting duck in the city. One, because they can unleash a mob of angry people. There's so much anger, and people are so brainwashed that if it ever became communism, just like they did in Russia and anywhere else, they will unleash that mob on whatever person that the media starts to target. They can just start saying, turn in all white Christian American patriots, or turn in all Republican white men. And what are you going to do then? Your AR-15 versus 100 people and the local police force?
People are going to start to notice that all this chaos is all happening in democratically ran places. It's not happening like this in red states.
Yeah.
So people are going to see that and be like, whoa, what the heck?
And it is concerning that, like you said, you're aware of Trump's ties to Israel, how much influence Jared Kushner has had over the administration, how he's been able to just destroy all the executive orders that would have made things right in some way. He always ends up ruining it, and that no one calls him out except for Tucker Carlson. But, so Trump is...
Yeah, Tucker.
Yes, and so I disagree. I got Trump on my shirt right now, but I'm not some cheerleader for him. I'm well aware of Trump, his failures, and what he's not doing for America, and how he's pandering to the left, and like when he talks about white supremacy and agrees with that and co-signs that that's a bigger threat than black anger or Chinese communism or global Zionism, like that's ridiculous. And I don't care what plan there is, that does not help anything. Call it out. Be, like you said, like those guys in Rhodesia. Be like them. Just say it. Be clear and defined. And who gives a damn what the world says and what the media says? They're gonna call you a hater anyways. But say it. Call it out. And until we have a leader like that, I don't see this changing. That's why I say get your guns and go head for the hills.
Precisely. Well, yeah, definitely. I was speaking to a friend of mine earlier that lives in St. Louis. He's having a real rough go of it. The riots are starting to spread into the neighborhood he's in. And I told him, do you want a gun? He was worried. I said, well, if you can't find somewhere else outside of the city to stay, I would get a firearm. If you don't have one, he said that he doesn't have one. I'll get it someday. And I said, well, today's the day. So he's looking into it. Prayers go out to everybody who is caught in this disgusting conflagration.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Like, just don't be naive. I've been pushing a lot of not pushing, but just strongly recommending to some of the girls in our church to don't wait and make sure you are armed. Learn how to protect yourselves. Don't go looking for trouble. That's like Jesse would say, just wait and see. But when that trouble comes to you, you're gonna regret not being prepared.
Absolutely. Well, Look, you can't admit, or you can't accept defeat. We can't accept defeat. We built too much. I do believe that this country, in many respects, has been graced by God since its founding. We can't give up. This is our home, and this isn't to say that whenever we call for people needing to wake up and become aware of things like race, government control, corporatism, stuff like that. I don't mean to put that on you guys, but whenever I say stuff like that, I'm not saying to do so out of hatred or not even necessarily anger, but you have to be righteous. You have to be indignant. Righteous indignation. You have to be correct. You have to be on good moral ground, and you have to speak up, because if you don't speak up, you'll lose. And if you lose, everything goes down the gutter.
Right. This is. I'm not going. Like, I got some friends who say we should leave the country and wait till this blows over. It's like, no, this is like I agree, maybe leave the city because it's tactically you're disadvantaged strategically and tactically in a city.
I'd get out of the democratic cities for sure.
Right, but I'm not leaving this country. This is my country. This is our country, and we need it. Like you said, we gotta stand. You don't run from it. You just move to higher ground, but we have to defend.
Do you think that the people that would leave the country would be the ones that hate the country? Like, why would you leave the country if you love them? You love the country.
Well, it's because they want the country. And this goes back to what we were talking about earlier in terms of how evil works and how it propagates, how it spreads. That's what's been pushed. That's the propaganda that's gone on. White folks have been taught to hate themselves, and everybody, non-Europeans have been taught in this country and along the Western world broadly to hate what America is, and not to leave it alone, not to leave, but instead to take it and change it and mold it into what you want, reform it to conform with your own ideology, your own prejudice, stuff like that. That's why we're leaning towards the nihilistic, atheistic, the global homogeneity. We can't give it up. That's not what we are. It's not what America is. It's never what it was.
Right. We got to push back. Like, that's why I'm well aware, and I always, people lately are saying, "Oh, you only seem to care about white people." It's like, it's just not that. It's just that this is a priority. That if that demographic falls, all other demographics will sorely miss them and realize that was the largest demographic that gave us, Christian Americans, Second Amendment loving people. And if they get defeated, brother, there's no one left to help us.
Well, that's exactly it. That's the world will be engulfed in 1,000 years of darkness, and you can't leave. You can't go. Where are you going to go? You're going to go to Hungary. Hungary's cool. The Hungarian government is based in a lot of ways, but they don't have the resources. They don't have they don't have what it takes to fight back against what's happening across all of the Western world in terms of taking Jesus Christ out of the cultural ethos, good European Western morality, philosophy, ideology. This is the last stand. It's the only power center that has what it takes. I don't mean to sound like a neocon, and I certainly am not in any way, but we have to be the quote-unquote shining light on the hill. We have to. Without us, everybody else falls. Everybody else in the West. A lot of the West has already fallen.
Right. And that's it. If we don't stand up for these people and push back against this demonization of white American culture and the founding of this nation, we will all pay the price. Like, that's the thing. So it's like Jesse, I'm not gonna worry about all the smaller issues. I'm aware of it. I'm aware that all people need to wake up. We need blacks, browns, Hispanics, yellows, pink, purples, all need to overcome anger and wake up. But they need to realize that if they don't stand up and defend against the attack on white culture, they are signing their own death warrants. Because people are scared. They've beaten that fear into us that if you even dare defend white people, you're a racist. Like you cannot comment on the issues facing them, on the ridiculous amount of crime committed against them just for being white, the amount of violent attacks they suffer, and just keep dealing with it. And it's not that I'm trying to paint them as a victim, but let's be objective and see that there is a coordinated effort by certain powers to destroy that demographic, because that demographic is the biggest threat to their new world order.
Well, that's exactly it. Well, so you could look, countries can survive a lot of things. They have throughout history. Italy survived everything it's gone through. Russia, for example, has survived communism. They have something a little bit different now, but it's not communism. They survived communism. You could survive socialism. Those are bad things, in my opinion, but you could survive that. What no country has ever and will likely ever be able to survive is large, especially within the amount of time that we're experiencing it in this country, demographic change. You just can't do it. If you take the entire population of Vermont's a super majority white, super left wing thing, but it's not violent. It's not absurd, or it doesn't look like the third world. If you took all of the white people out of Vermont and you replaced them with Somalians, it's not going to look like Vermont anymore. It's going to look like Somalia. And not just by the way the people are, but the way the whole cultural dynamics in every aspect, how they reflect into reality, right? Like, you're not going to have bakeries and candle shops. You'll have Somalia.
Right. Yeah, it's exactly what's happening like England. Look at the UK. You know, they've rapidly increased mass immigration, and they've had nothing but grooming gangs. You know, the rapes and attacks on white people have gone through the roof, and their own court systems won't even let them speak out. It doesn't give them equal weight in the media. You know, you can. I forget what the event was, but I mean, they had a young girl had her head basically chopped off. You had a bombing of white children at a concert, and they only put attention on anything that affects the immigrant. You know, like you can see the bias, and if people don't catch that, you're destroying your own country, but just by being blind.
Well, that's exactly right. And it goes back into the point earlier we were talking about, so the kinds of crimes, the kinds of ugliness that we're seeing from other cultures that are imported into Western culture is all of that stuff happens there, but whenever they come in, or whenever they are in contact, whenever they're integrated forcibly so into Western European civilization, they bring those kind of practices, and then they come over here with all of the racial propaganda, anti-white hatred that is ubiquitous in our culture. You see those crimes that happen in those countries. When those people come over here or come over into Europe or Italy, they bring those crimes, but they do it along ethnic, racial lines. Right.
Exactly.
And because the indigenous peoples of those nations are not in control of the levers of power, it's able to be more directed by people who are also foreign to that nation.
Agreed, man. Well, in the interest of time, we're going to jump off and see if there's another caller, but man, I really appreciate you calling in.
Yeah, thank you, bro.
Absolutely, man. Anytime. Hey, you guys be safe out there in LA. God bless you. Be safe. Be safe. All of that good stuff. You guys have a good night.
All right, you too, bro.
Be well.
Bye-bye.
Pros and cons. 818-308-5559.
If there's any ladies in the chat, we always like to get some that female perspective. It really helps to kind of, balance it out. It's good for fellowship. You got to hear that other side of it. So, Queen Butterfly, Just Happy, Credit Solutionist. Let us know if you got anything on your mind you want to speak. Let's hear from the ladies. The ladies. Do you think Magic Johnson actually has AIDS? Or do you think that was...
I think that the fact his name is Magic Johnson and he had AIDS and overcame it is very interesting. What are the chances of having AIDS, being one of the very few or the only ones who's overcome AIDS, and your name is Magic Johnson?
Magic Johnson.
Yeah, you have to have a Magic Johnson for that to happen.
Right. He's got a very magical Johnson.
Isn't it ironic? Don't you think?
A little too. Let's see. Tell us about the riots in front of your place. Oh yeah, Black Toria had rioters outside her apartment last night.
I heard, man. I mean, good thing she's got on her side is she black.
Yeah.
So she doesn't have as much to worry about because all she's got to do is come in like she came to church.
Yeah, walk
all
outside.
black with your hoodie.
Put your fist up.
Be like, yeah.
That's
and,
it.
I mean,
be like, Black Lives
I mean,
Matter.
not saying that guarantees your chance of survival, but you do have God on your side. So I think I think you'll be fine. But you listen to that, whatever's in your heart, and not in your thoughts or fear, but if you have that knowingness where you're like, you know what, this isn't right, and get out of there. What else can you do?
Black Toria, she has to yell BLM loud and F-22. Yeah, that's it. I mean, the good thing is, she is black, so she can blend in with the mob. But yeah, she was a little stressed out. But don't worry, you gotta stay cool. There's cool tips you can do. Like I was telling her, worst case scenario, if someone's trying to break into your house and you don't have weapons, you fill up all your pots and pans on each burner of your stove, any way to heat it up. Put in cooking oil, let that get hot. Someone comes in, you throw that oil on them. It's a basic way of some kind of self-defense.
That's true. That hot oil's no joke.
And that stays on them and sticks to them. Trust me, they'll go running away. So those little things like that you can
Then you
learn.
got your zombie stabber, which you're obviously getting very acclimated with the flipping.
Trevor's hilarious gross jokes are going to cause his future wife much stress. Yeah, just kidding.
What are my hilarious gross jokes? Oh, the Magic Johnson?
Yeah.
Was that a joke, or it's actually true?
Yeah, it's
Isn't
funny
it
how
ironic that the guy who survives AIDS, his name is Magic Johnson?
Yeah, that's where the whole idea of Hollywood and things, all the world being a stage, like Shakespeare said, really starts to kind of make you think. What are the chances of all these things? Everything does seem staged. Not everything, but there is an element to that.
Evil loves to put it right in front of your face and flaunt it as though, like, I think that if you notice people that do the weirder and more bizarre things, it becomes a thing of getting away with it, of like getting off on putting it in front of your face without anyone noticing, or like flaunting it. So I don't know, I just find it interesting.
I keep a rack of $1 bills and nobody can stand up to a cloud of Washingtons. That's mad. If the mob comes, just make it rain. They'll all be picking it up, and then you just run off. And if the communists come, you just throw a bunch of nickels down there.
You know what I did? I got a suitcase and I wrote down a bunch of IOUs in it. So if anyone comes to rob me or take stuff, I'm just gonna give them that suitcase and be like, take these. These are IOUs. Are just as good as cash. That's a Lamborghini. 500,000.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it's just amazing what's going on in the world right now. So don't be naive. Don't have any illusions about it. Don't panic, but be prepared. Fortune favors the prepared, and God's not going to fight your battles for you. He can just show you the next move and the way out. But you got to do for self. Find a way to defend yourself. Train, practice. If you got a knife, don't just have it. Keep it on you. Flip it open, close, over and over until it's second nature. You got a gun? Fire it. Go practice. Run through it. Get used to it. Because in the moment, you're not going to have time to think and say, hold on, let me figure out how to load this thing again. Fake rollies everywhere. Bro, the devil had several thousand years to gain access to all levels of influence and power. Of course we are going to see a show. Exactly. Almost everything is a production. That's why Hollywood and the CIA and those two elements, government and movies, they blend so well because it is magic. Like, that's why they call it the magic of Hollywood. You can use squibs and fake blood and camera techniques, and you could create what looks like a murder. You can create all these things to get the desired result.
A lot of people now are saying, and I'm not saying I'm one of them, but they're saying that they think that the George Floyd thing was staged. And a lot of people say some crazy stuff like that, but I do know anything is possible. I'm not saying I believe it. I'm not saying I don't. I'm just waiting to see what's revealed because I think the truth is a lot harsher than we want to really realize what it is. And so I think being objective and open to all possibilities and allowing, us to not have an expectation built up so we're not let down, so we can actually see the truth when it hits us. Yeah.
Yeah, I was telling Trevor that Floyd is a porn star, was a porn star, if he's dead. The trash can at the scene had 3 6s on it. There was like some kind of painting. The paramedics, these are all just objective things. I'm not concluding, but the paramedics who came to pick him up were wearing bulletproof vests. They looked more like cops. I believe they even had an earpiece. They did not use proper technique when they put him on the stretcher. They looked like an amateur. They just held his head with their hand. There was no neck support. They call C-spine support. C-support, like nothing. It's interesting. Floyd's father was a high-ranking Mason. There's posts that Floyd had saying that he inherited all his dad's Masonic goods. Trayvon Martin's father was a high-ranking Mason. There's just interesting things to think about because when you do allow for the fact that Hollywood is a part of this problem, you have to keep that possibility open that there could be some production in this. There's satanic people believe in sacrifice. Maybe they killed him, but he was part of their group. But they do kill their own. And
everything that they're talking about with this race issues and stuff, the real thing we're facing is not divisiveness within the races. It's the difference, especially Trump. I think what he's doing is acknowledging that there's a lot of these leftists that want one world order. They want to have the whole world operate as one. When they're trying to tell you that being a nationalist is a bad thing. When you don't want the whole world to be operated as one because it has to be divided in a sense to where you can stop evil as it comes in its tracks. If it's all one world order, then that means that when something bad happens, everyone is affected immediately, as opposed to being able to see if say I live in a democratic state, right, and I don't like the laws, I don't like the things that are changing here, so I can get out of California and go to a different state. But with one world order, it's just you're screwed no matter where you are. So we need to have that option and ability to be able to decide what works for whoever you are, and a lot of other reasons. But I think we're just really facing the globalists versus the nationalists. Right. It's not a race issue.
Japan should stay Japan. China should stay China. Every country should maintain their demographics and their cultures and values because, like Trevor said, that's what makes it unique. I don't want to go to Japan just to see another gray mass of people that all look the same, don't have any more culture, and it's not Japan. That's what makes it unique. And everyone should fight to preserve every nation's uniqueness and don't believe this idea of forced multiculturalism.
That's what they're doing, though. They're forcing it on social media and all kinds of things. They're forcing integration when people should have the freedom to just be allowed to happen naturally so that we can have it be from the heart and not because we're forced. Someone called?
Yeah, Miss Victoria's call because my phone's tripping. That's
the
weird.
iPhone 3.
Yeah, I got the iPhone 2.5, the beta model.
Hello?
Blacktoria.
What happened? Did my call go through?
Yeah, my phone's tripping. It's not even ringing, so I can't even hear when someone's calling. So I don't know what's going on.
Dang, I said Black Lives Matter and everything.
Oh, really? BLM.
I agree. Black lives do matter.
They do. Black and blue, black and brown, yellow.
Black and yellow, black and yellow. So you said you had a question. What was that question?
Well, it was a weird question. Now that I think about it, I'm acting like a stoner. But listen.
I'm a stoner.
I had made a comment a while ago about saying how these Q people leave breadcrumbs, right?
Yeah.
And they won't just spit stuff out. So that's very frustrating to me because if everything's going down the way they say that it is, we don't need breadcrumbs anymore. Like, just say it. It's fine. But my question was, when you started talking about George Floyd being a porn star,
yeah,
who dropped that information? Like, did somebody go and start searching him out?
Yeah,
Or
I mean,
did that just pop up and was it like a Q thing? Like what? How
no,
did
it's
that
not
come up?
it's not a cute thing. You can Google, go to any major porn site, Pornhub, X videos. I don't know why I know this. Don't ask me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, excuse me, like what?
But I mean, that's the thing. We're living in the age of citizen journalism, and these people, you know, it's the citizens who have done more research than the actual mainstream media.
And that's what Q is that they're only giving breadcrumbs because all they have are breadcrumbs, and they're putting them together and making, intellectual, educated guesses that either are right or wrong. That's why I can't put my faith in any of it. But it's entertaining and it's interesting to hear what they have to say, hear what everyone has to say, so that I can have my own conclusions.
Yeah, the one good thing about that whole Q thing, is like I'm not banking on anything because I don't expect anything. I can't trust any man, like Jesse advises. But it is it's supposed to be a movement that encourages you to think for yourself. Like kind of how Jesse says, like, don't believe me, go do your research. And then this person supposedly has, whoever it is, has posted that many times saying, do your own research. So that takeaway is the most important takeaway. But people get caught up in it because they want to believe that someone is fighting their battle, and it's dangerous. Like, fine, I'm aware of it, but I'm not waiting on anybody to come save my life. Where's Q when someone's gonna break it down my door or try and beat me to death, in front of my store? Like, they're not gonna be there. So, just take it with a grain of salt, but just be aware that you can do your own legwork. You can research into Floyd or any other person and find way more information than the media would ever give you.
Yeah, because this is the thing about Q. Like I said, if they have all this insider knowledge, like, why are they not able to intercept this stuff that happens on the ground to make it stop? Because if Antifa can, like, slide their people into a protest, how come Q can't slide their people in and intercept these people too? So it's just not making sense to me. But yeah, I agree when you say, here's a breadcrumb, run with it, do what you want to do with it. I was just thinking about that because it seems strange that all of these signs and symbols are right in our faces like this. So I'm just wondering, so like, okay, like the thing you sent yesterday with George and the tattoo circled. I'm not going to ask you if you watched the video that you sent the still frame of, but with the little symbol on his chest, like.
Yeah, it's the same tattoo that LeBron James has. It's the Masonic bird. If you look up the Freemason symbol, it's a black bird with like two heads, with the number 33 in the center. And his own father, George's father, was a Mason. There's photos on that from his own social media. People have got out and found it. Trayvon Martin's father was a Mason. Now he's making Hollywood movies and making bank. Like, you just start to see that there's this pattern. And what the idea is that just like there are these, anti-Christian, anti-God white Freemasons and Jewish Freemasons, there are these anti-Christian, anti-white, anti-God black Freemasons that work with them. And so the allegation is that there's people in Hollywood, these celebrities, they are paid, whether they know the entire plan. The point is they are still happy to serve an agenda because it benefits them financially, or with fame and press, like Oprah, LeBron, some of these athletes, Jamie Foxx.
And, not alluding to anything, but it is crazy too, like, because George Floyd's family are now millionaires.
Yeah, their GoFundMe raised like $7 million.
Oh, wow. So do you guys think that he's actually dead, or do you think that this was all, like, faked and he's just somewhere chilling?
No, I don't know. I can't say. There's nothing that causes me to believe one or the other. I just don't know.
I think that it's the thing is with satanic people, and if you study enough about them without holding on to it, satanic people believe in sacrifice. That goes all the way back to the times of Jesus Christ and before. They believe in sacrificing children and anybody because it gives them power. So he could have been killed, even though he was the son of a Mason, may have been a Mason himself. He could have been killed as a sacrifice, or he could have faked it, or just they made him pass out, just like you kind of lightly choke someone's supply off to make them pass out. But either way, there are still red flags there that should at least tell you, let me not get worked up about this and wait and see how they're using this to further an agenda. And that should tell you what's more important. What's the bigger picture problem here?
Yeah, and I think, I don't know if I had told you, but like earlier I was talking with, we were having like a family group chat via text. And, I have two black brothers. So, obviously they resonate with some of this stuff, but I think it's my younger one now more so than my older one. Um, and it was just interesting that, listening to his point of view, he really is like on this SJW thing. And I thought, wow, that's interesting because he's in the video game world. So he's like into technology and all that kind of stuff. And that's his job, like he's a social media director. So I'm wondering if he has access to all this information that says Black Lives Matter, we're oppressed, black men, are an endangered species, yada, 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 yada. How does he not take into consideration the other information that's out there? Because I know he has access to it. It's blowing my mind that there's so much information out there, but everybody's automatically going to the easy narrative that you don't have to use brain power to think about racism, I guess.
Because it's easier for people to feel like they're a victim and to not have to look at themselves and be accountable. It's easier to be, have that easy free card of like, oh well, I can't help it. I like everybody should be accountable with where they are at in their own life.
Yeah.
And that's the way it should be. I mean, I know you're black, obviously. How do you feel about your life? Do you feel like you're held back because of your skin, or like? And you can be honest. I know that maybe there was a time when you did, maybe you don't now. But how do you feel about that?
All right. Well, now the mob is going to come because my very last job that I had before this one, I know for a fact that I got it because I'm a black female, because my boss actually told me that. So I'm not the whole, I wouldn't even say it was affirmative action because like she's black too. I think she just did it just to kind of do it. But I don't think I've been held back if I really go back into my life and look at things. Like even when I was a kid, I really wasn't held back. Like I was always in like gifted programs, all that kind of stuff. And I can't say that I was. I chose not to go to college. Like I chose not to do certain things in my life. And that is actually freedom in and of itself because I didn't feel confined. I didn't feel like anybody was holding me back. I saw those things in front of me and I chose not to do them. So I don't think that I'm oppressed at all. If I was, I wouldn't be, a woman living by myself, making my own money, all that kind of stuff. Like, I know that sounds like, a feminist narrative, but it's true. If I were really oppressed, I wouldn't be able to do that, And on top of that, I think I just wouldn't be able to do any of the things that I've actually done. So I can't even be specific, but you get what I'm saying? Like, I can't even like go far into it with the answer because no, I'm not oppressed. Like it's just not in my mind.
No, and I feel you, but I noticed, like, cause being in the music industry and around all these different musicians and stuff, like, there's these black musicians that I know that are doing so well. Like they play with the biggest artists. They have access to all kind of possibilities. They travel the world, living their dreams. They're making good money, and it's like people like LeBron, and then they're saying that they're oppressed, and and it just blows my mind because as a white male, I know I've heard that systematic racism is where you're in a position of power to hold people back, right? Well, all the people that I can hear myself. All the people that are in the music industry, the gatekeepers, are black. Maybe not on the record label levels or whatever, but within the hiring of musicians and the musical MDs, because how it works is like the musical directors are the ones that go out and find the talent to get on gigs and all kind of stuff. I can hear myself.
Oh, whoa, sorry guys. Whoa.
She black. They put them on. They go find the talent and put them on the gigs, and I don't get calls from anybody. And it's like I'm not going to conclude and say it's because I'm white, but I do know that the mentality is that we need more black businesses. We need we need to stand out for each other in black. You know, like most of all the background singers, all the musicians are black. Very often, not very often will you see a white person in there. When I was on the Joe Jonas gig, I used to play and sing backgrounds for Joe Jonas, and we did a bunch of stuff. And then I got a call afterwards, and the musical director told me that that they wanted to get replace me with a DJ and a black guy. He's like, it's nothing against you. It's just that they think that he would look a lot cooler if we had a black guy on the team. So, like that, the idea of systematic racism being only with white people is not true, because in my position, like I would so-called be oppressed being a white musician with the kind of music I make and what I do, but it's like a gift and a curse, you know. I can't help it that I've appreciated the culture, and I don't understand why people attack me for it, saying that I'm, you know, right in the backs of black culture and stuff like that, when it's really my heart's been to celebrate it because I enjoy it and I like it. But it doesn't mean that because I appreciate the art of that kind of music, that I'm against or anything because of the ideologies of other principles in life with character and family and values and all those things. They're not intertwined. It's not like, oh, because I play this kind of music that I have to think this way now, and that I'm not supportive of black people, when actually when the things I'm talking about is like, I feel like the most support you can give, because it's universal laws. It's for everybody. Like we should have more family. We should have character and values. But anyways, yeah, I'm rambling.
Well, about the music thing, I find myself sometimes feeling awkward because I don't listen to rap music at all. You know, when people find that out, they're so shocked and blah, blah, blah. And sometimes, you know, like I will have my windows down and I'll be like, you know, I'll have my music kind of loud. You know, that's the black in me. And I notice people look at me because they don't expect to see me in the car, or maybe they're just looking because the music's kind of loud. I don't know. But I know it probably is a little strange for people to see a black girl playing rock music in her car, or playing some old obscure band from the 70s in my car. I know that throws people off, but why? You know what I mean? Because I'm with you where you say music is universal. Rap music doesn't speak to me. Like it just doesn't. So like when I used to go to clubs and bars and stuff, and they would play hip hop, I used to have to get drunk and high to dance to that stuff, because it's not good music to me. It really isn't. Like it's just not. When I hear mumble rap, I'm like, are y'all listening to what they're actually saying? Like they're putting you into a trance. This is ridiculous. Like they're just repetitively saying things about drugs, things about getting high, things about shooting other black people. This is not normal everyday conversation. Like it's so strange to me. So I had a question for you about that, Trevor. Do you think that kind of music is being used to hypnotize people? Because it is not normal to actually talk about shooting people on a regular basis.
No,
and they
absolutely.
say it repetitively in the music. It's like it is a trance.
Of course it's used, and people don't see how hypocritical it looks to really ride for that kind of thing, and then be surprised when, you know, thugs is thrown out there. Because it's like, if you're gonna dress like Mickey Mouse and then be upset when people call you a mouse, you know, like that's what's happening, is that the culture is celebrating
thuggery.
Yeah, like bitches and hoes and shooting people and money and all things that are just like very shallow, you know, and not good. And then they'll get mad at Donald Trump and say something like, oh, he's sexist, he's racist, and then they'll go back in the car and listen to that music. Like, it's very selective, you know, like, why aren't people outraged at these rappers when they are, like, in interviews and they're saying wild stuff, like Cardi B, like, they say some crazy stuff, and everyone's like, yes,
right,
yes, queen.
It's so hypocritical.
And it's like, she said that she raped a guy, that she used to rape guys,
yeah,
that she used to drug them and then steal from them. And no one cares. It's so hypocritical, and the double standard is it. It's like, people need to make their own bed, you know? Like, I don't know what else more I can say, but yeah, I definitely think it's a spell, and it's being used to seduce people for sure. That's why I used to love that kind of music. I still like the musicality of it, you know, but the lyrics and everything like that. But even the musicality of it now, I'm really realizing how it's a feeling. and it's a dark feeling. It kind of gives you this feeling of like just I don't know how to explain it, but it's dark.
It's kind of like Mike Black said. It's like music can be used to spread evil and like a spell.
It's like rap music is gonna be this kind of stuff. Like it feels dark and like
ominous.
And yeah, like I'm up
Yeah,
to no
it's
good.
sinister. It's sinister. Yes.
Exactly.
Right.
You're
Victoria,
absolutely
speaking
right.
of like the whole black thing and why putting yourself in a box. Last week you had a nice kind of awakening we talked about the other day, from the whole making sandwiches things to you wanting Jesse and me and other people who weren't saying what you wanted them to say. What was part of that awakening? Because that I think ties into this idea that would help other black people realize that you might be putting yourself in a box and identifying with color and not character.
Yeah, I was ready to cut everybody last week. So the awakening that I had was that I did realize that for Jesse, it was not necessarily that I wanted him to see I guess it was color, because I did get worked up about the not all, but most black people thing. Because I'm just like, man, we don't really know all black people. So I got caught up in that where I'm like, nah, we don't know them all. We can just say the ones we see or the ones we're presented, because I don't know all black people. So I was getting worked up about it because I thought, well, we're not all like that, and I can't say 100% all black people are one specific way. So that was one thing with Jesse. But then the other thing was that what I thought I saw, with the video of George Floyd, I had already made up in my mind that the cop was responsible for killing this person. And I was very solid in that idea. So I was frustrated with Jesse because it was he wouldn't say that this cop did something wrong. Like, he wouldn't say, okay, based on what I see, that's excessive. Like, he didn't say anything. And I was frustrated because I thought, well, no, Jesse, this is one of those times where you can see it. Like, you see it, Jesse. Don't do this. Like, the chat was on fire, and everybody was, saying the same thing. And then there are people that agree with Jesse, but honestly, there are some people that just agree because they're fanboys and fangirls, and you can tell. So I thought, okay, we all can't be wrong here. But then the reality of it set in, and I thought, holy crap, this is part of the wait and see. What he's saying is actually accurate. I do have to wait and see because I don't know what I saw on that video. And the other reason that I know that I'm wrong is because I'm getting worked up. Like, that's an indicator right there. It's like, wait, why am I even feeling this? I shouldn't be feeling anything about Jesse's opinion regardless, So that kind of, the light bulb went off when I realized, that he is right when he says wait and see.
Yeah. So, because I agree with you. When it first came out, Jesse, I almost knew that he was gonna be that way, and then after things started to come out, he started to say that if maybe he did hold his leg there too long, and that he was wrong, and he wasn't agreeing with the cops, and then more information came out about how he, the autopsy, about how he could have been, George Floyd could have died from another cause. It's like, we don't know. And I remember a while ago, there was a biblical question of something like, do you believe everything that you see and hear or something? And I remember we were always talking about that. And we all came to agree that, like, sometimes what you think you see and then you conclude to what it is not what's really true.
Right. That's what I brought up recently is I had that. I went from thinking like, all right, this could be excessive, like in the Kelly Thomas case, but then it hit me like, wait a minute, as much as I know that I don't want to deal with the fruit, I want to deal with the root, I don't know how much pressure was on his neck because I'm not under there. It's what I perceive to be excessive because the media told me it's excessive, and kind of how Queen Butterfly felt that he was smirking from some kind of evil place, whereas what if it's a smirk towards all the idiots who don't know what he's doing and that he's not doing anything wrong? I would smirk too. If I was doing a technique that I was taught that is not a deadly technique, then why would I smirk at people who act funny all the time. So I was assuming that, 1, they cut off his airway, 2, they cut off his blood flow, 3, it was too much pressure. I don't know any of those things because I didn't have his neck on my, or his knee on my neck. So that's why I need to wait and see, and wait for the autopsy. Did he get himself worked up like most black people tend to do in a police situation? You know, the ones who are doing crime, they tend to already go to level 10, get loud, hyperventilate, get angry. Did he have heart trouble? Was he on drugs? You know, all those things are a factor, and that comes in with wait and see. I don't even want to say the cop did anything wrong yet because I don't know. I can just say what I see, and it's hard to catch yourself sometimes because we don't see how much force is applied, but yet people are so sure that it was excessive.
Yeah, and now after this week has passed, when you look at the clip again, you know, even back to the Ahmaud Arbery thing, it's spliced and edited in a cinematic way. Like, it is actually presented to us, so we just get that really quick. It's almost like when you see a preview and you get excited about the movie. It's the same thing. It's like they show you this little bit of information, this little bitty tiny clip, but so much happens in that little moment, your brain can't process it. It's like your brain just kind of goes off rapid fire. And I'm sure for the science geeks or whatever, all these neurons and stuff are firing off. That's what happens. And then you just become irrational if you don't have control, I guess, of your mind and your spirit and stuff. And that, like I said, that's what happened to me last week. And it really did actually, it scared me, you know, because I thought, holy crap, dude, I'm supposed to be awake here. But then I realized I was putting myself in a box too by judging myself for having a reaction. So
yeah, I've been seeing this, like, you're bringing up something that made me think of something. This video that is going around, that is an edited video of things that Trump has said at his rallies, and then they splice it all together, and then they put like this like old like 1950s, 40s, whatever footage of, like, you know, the Jim Crow laws, or like things that were happening to black people, and then trying to make it look like Trump was saying it with those undertones, like meaning like he's bringing up old racist, you know, lines and using them as, like, you know,
it's magic, sorcery.
And I'm like, dude. And then I go in the comment section. Of course, someone said, yeah, but this is totally taken out of context. You know, like, you can deliver anything to make it look a certain way, and that's why we can't get seduced into just believing everything we see. Because if you put the right thing someone says, anybody says, with something else, and you make it look a certain way, of course it's going to look that way, and then people fall for it.
Yep.
Exactly. And like I said, I think because a lot of us are just, you know, we're sitting at home, we have our phones in our hands, our computers in our faces, we have so much information right now that we pick and choose what we see, and that's the truth. But what I was thinking about now is that when we see these really, you wouldn't say high profile, but these really racially charged videos and stuff like that, I'm noticing that they give you, excuse this term, but they give you the climax first. Right. It's like they show you the thing that's gonna sway you left or right.
Exactly. They showed, just like the Ahmaud Arbery, they just showed you the incident and then already had it framed up with jogger, you know, hunted down, and it's the same tactic, and we don't realize that we fall for it every time, and that since you were a child, you know, all of us, all the movies have, if you go back and start watching all the movies from the 90s and the 80s, you're going to see those same depictions of the weak father, the mother who's stronger, and the kids who, you know, like the father's never there and he's a jerk because he's always working, you know, the black victim and the white hater, and that any white nationalist or proud white American is usually depicted as a jerk. You know, it's the same character types, and it's been fixing and changing your reality, what you perceive as reality, and you carry it with you to this day. And that's part of it. You got to overcome that programming, and it takes some time. You grow into it, but like you experienced last week, you caught yourself, you know, still falling for some of that programming.
Absolutely. And like I said, I'm starting to see what the news and the media, social media, whoever's putting this content out, I'm seeing how they're doing it now. It's like we're reading a book backwards. Like I said, they're giving you the end of the movie, the very last scene, and then it's not until 3 to 4 weeks later, after you've stewed in the idea that you've come to the conclusion, the conclusion that you have, it's only after you sit in that they start to let the other information trickle out that they should have given you in the first place. Like with this guy, the George Floyd guy, it's like, why are we just now finding out this guy's a porn star and he's a Freemason
and
all
media.
that?
It's we're finding out through independent fact checkers. So it's like you can see that there's a bias. They don't want you to know anything about that. They just want you to know black man killed by white man.
Exactly. And what really is the bigger part here is ex-porn star, Freemason, whatever degree, was murdered by a cop. Why don't they have that headline? Because to me, that's more suspicious than him being a black guy, if anything. I don't understand. But really, the headline should just say "man was killed," like Gaucho was saying earlier. That's really all it should have been.
Yeah, man not even killed, because that's determining, that's passing sentence. It should have just said man dies in police altercation, investigation underway.
I mean, yeah, if the news was really objective, that is what it would be.
Yeah, not killed, not anything, just dies in altercation.
Because people don't think for themselves, for the most part, that they overlook these words, and they don't realize that the spells are being casted upon them, and they can't see that they're being tricked into believing into something. And they think that they're thinking for themselves. They think that it's their idea, and that they're smart, and that their ego is like, oh, wow, you're like an investigator, and you really figured it out. When they're planting all the seeds in your head with the words that they're selecting.
Absolutely, and people know that this happens because when you're in that fallen state, you do it all the time. It's, when you're trying to say the right things so a person likes you, or you say things to a girl so she'll sleep with you, or, you know what I'm saying? Like we all use words as a spell. That's what advertising is. That's what writing copy is. Everything you look at is casting a spell on you of some sort, whether you believe it or not. And the sooner people can realize that they do it in their everyday life, then the more likely they will be to accept that the information being given to them is the same thing. It's like, how is the news any different than you when you lie to your best friend? Or it boggles my mind now. So I don't know if that's part of waking up, but it's like I see patterns in myself, and it's like, oh, that's how I can see the pattern in the world, because I do that myself, or I have done that. That's how I know it's happening. So like I said, them giving the best part up front, or the thing that's going to, create the narrative up front, is what a lot of people do every day in their everyday life. And then they give you the facts later, or they give you the things that, what really happened later.
Right. Because they're trying to divide it up immediately and be like, hey, if this is what you're writing for, then what's the rest? It's like they try to grab you as opposed to really just tell the truth and give the facts and what we see as evidence, as opposed to setting it up, and people love it. And it goes back to, waking up goes back to just re-questioning everything you've ever thought, because even with like Disney movies and TV and all these things, like women have grown up to think that Prince Charming was coming, and they've never thought to think, well, what is charming? Like a snake charmer, you seduce the snake with the music, and then it pops up, and then you can control the snake. And that's what Prince Charming is somebody who's going to trick you and charm you into, so you can sleep with each other or whatever. It's like people don't think that deep into words and what's actually really happening, and girls have grown up to watch Disney movies and think that they want their Prince Charming, and then they wonder why they're not getting married, or they're just being deceived by guys, and then they blame the guy. They're like, oh, men are pigs. Oh, they're all like this, when they can't look at themselves to see you become what you hate, and you attract what you resent.
Yeah, I talked to you the other day about our mutual friend from church, and how she came to realize that she even knowing Jesse's the things she's learned from Jesse and waking up, that as a woman she still didn't catch herself using that and using it for her own ego. And just because you know what the way is, and you know what's right, you know that you got to forgive and all this stuff, that you can actually become more egotistical with that truth, And then you start to compare your husband or the men you meet to people like Jesse, or what you think Jesse is, or what Jesus was or is, because you think you know the truth now. And all you do is you're still putting yourself in that box, and you're still going to end up picking somebody who's not going to be 100% right for you if you pick anybody at all, or you end up old and single and just say, well, it just didn't work out. But you don't know. It may have been because you were still working from ego, and that's why it was never added to your life. And then it's just amazing, because it's almost, you would think a woman who wakes up would have an easier time, but if anything, that it can be a bad mix, because her ego now knows the right way and will abuse that knowledge.
Yes, and that's why I'm happy that we're all in each other's lives right now more than ever, because the areas where I have the strengths, we do kind of pass the baton to each other with that. I do see that, and there's areas where I don't see things clearly, and like you or Trevor or whoever else from church can put perspective on it, or can at least present different information to me.
Because I'm not ever saying whatever I say is right. It's just what I see and what's in my heart, and I think that's what conversations are supposed to be, is discovery together, to share what's on your mind so you can discover something. Not so I can say, hey, listen to me, I'm right, you're wrong, But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. It's like people are forgetting that that's what your friends are there for. That actually is why you communicate with others for the most part. It is so you can fellowship. So if I have a weakness in an area, you can at least shine some light on it, because if I'm in the dark there, sometimes I won't be able to just get to God in that moment to have him shine that light. So I need my people around me to show me that, So there is I hate to say the word vulnerability, but there is that's there, like I have to be 100% honest when I talk to you guys, so I can get the 100% honest insight from you. So yeah, as far as going back to the whole, we think we know Jesse and we want a man like Jesse and all these other things.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I said, who's we want a man like Jesse?
Yeah.
Well, listen, I can go down a list of people right now, but no. But yeah, it's like when you have an idea of the person you think you're going to marry or you think you're going to date, you're already dead wrong, because
Exactly.
I know that person is not going to be who you think it is, because you know what you want, but God already knows what you need. And
exactly.
you may not even need a person, you know what I'm saying? You don't know how it's going to pan out, So I actually wanted to ask you, Beard Dude, because you said, like, if a lady's like old and single and she says it doesn't work out, I don't think that's true, because if she ends up alone, that was God's will.
Well, no,
you know what I mean?
You can't just definitively say it was. It is possible, but you cannot say it is His will, because, again, just because a lot of women can know the way. They can, if you ask them at church, they'll be like, yeah, I agree with Jesse all the way. But how do you know they're living it that way? Just like we can see, just like that our fellow Bond girl who had that awakening that, wow, she was comparing her husband to Jesse as a way to say you're not like him, and a way to exercise her ego over him and control him. That you cannot say that just because you got to old age as a single woman that it is God's will. You have it's with women, that ego is a mighty big thing to deal with.
Okay, so I guess that's where I'm still confused, because if something happens, how is it not God's will? Because it just is. It's if you're alone.
Because
you
how
just
do you know? How do you know that it's not your will, as you were deceived thinking it's God's will?
Yeah, just like when you were in a fallen state, is that God's will, or wasn't that Satan's will because you were serving Satan? And like the way, so you cannot say, oh, just because I got there, God put me there. That would be ego.
Your ego and your intellect can fool you into you thinking that, oh, it's God's will, but when it's really your ego shield telling you that to protect you from seeing that it's really your will and that you forced it and you made it happen,
Right. But you were unrealistic.
It was me.
Yeah, and you held guys to a standard that you thought, like, well, I know what it's like, and if he's not exactly like Jesse or exactly like Jesus, well then, it's then God, just God didn't bring it to me, and it's, just like I said, just like our mutual friend realized, you have to have to stay aware, because it's very easier for women to fall for that ego. It's stronger in you guys, you gals.
It is. You're not kidding. For me, I only have, I guess, only so much input on that, because I am in a different place as far as that is concerned right now. It's not something that I've actively worked on, but I did ask if that, if it comes to me and if I do start to date and all that kind of junk, I would appreciate if people could tell me if I was maybe losing it a little bit, or if I wasn't seeing the situation accurately, or like if I'm being judgy or something like that, because it's very easy to do that and not realize that's what you're doing. So
right, it's kind of like when you ask certain questions about, hey, is the way this guy's acting, does that seem like someone that's being added? And and I had just without thinking, I was like, no, that's not how a guy who's awake would act. So those are red flags. You still trying to make it work is you imposing it, trying to force it because you want it too bad. So
yeah.
And it's usually I would say that when a guy wakes up and a woman is starting to wake up and she wants what's right, the guy who's going to be added to your life is somebody who's going to probably make you feel something, because he's going to call you on your bullshit or your BS. He's not going to put up with it, and it may sound like he's being hard on you, but that's what a guy's supposed to do. He's not trying to tear you down, but he'll be blunt. And so it's not going to be the sweet talker, the guy who just like, oh, he's just so perfect, he does whatever I want and always gets me nice things. It's like, no, he'll at the same time, he's going to correct you in a firm way.
That is very true. And what do you think about this? Because I do talk to, I don't think it's romantic. I don't talk to anybody romantically, but when I'm having conversations with a person, I can already kind of tell, because I know we're supposed to wait and see, but sometimes you don't have to do that. Like, a person can just say one thing. Like, if I'm talking to a guy and he says, Black Lives Matter, I already know that's not a guy I'm going to entertain romantically. Now, am I wrong for knowing that?
No.
That's
okay, because I'm like, wait a minute, like, that is discernment, isn't it? Because
exactly.
like,
is that, I mean, come on, like, you have to be, it's a spiritual battle, and you gotta walk by faith, not by your sight, not by your eyeballs.
Yeah, and if you could think in your mind, or your mind could trick you into thinking that you can save someone like that, and then you end up entering the role into leading the man.
What, mama?
As opposed to, finding somebody who's going to lead you and already has everything that you are and what you want to be and what you strive to be, but on another level, so that you can, you'll know, just like that's not the right person. You'll know the right person, because you're not going to feel anything. It's not a feeling. It's going to be just it's like, oh wow. And then the thing about it is that you can't get caught up in that and dwelling on it. If you know, like, but staying present, not creating expectations, and not thinking because that this could be the right person, that it's going to play on your mind where you're going to now have an expectation that it damn sure better be the right person.
Right.
Like you just live day by day, and be in tune with yourself to see what you want to control. And the more you try to control things, the more you're going to sabotage it. Because I notice, like, girls have done that with me, is that they want to try to control me somehow. Like, try to make me say things, try to make me, like, they get insecure if I don't act a certain way that they expect me to act, and then they try to, like, position me into acting a certain way for them. And that's the slow conditioning of them trying to, make me be something other than I'm not. Especially when I haven't shown that I'm anything. It's like, it's all that they've created in their head about who I am.
Right.
And then it's my job to bring them out of their imagination and be like, hey, like, where are you getting all this from? Like, why are you believing that this, me not doing something means something? It's just like this Blackout Tuesday thing. Like, if I don't post the blackout thing, that means I'm racist. It's like, I don't like to fall for the control and manipulation. So that's the thing, is just be aware of, Are you trying to control someone? Are you trying to make it your will and impose what you want to happen? You know,
Yeah.
the more you just let it be and embrace it and enjoy the moment, like that's everything.
Kind of what Trevor said about feelings, like that's the one thing you as a woman and all women who are trying to wake up and or maintain that, you know, that stillness. It's easy. You girls want to feel something because you've been taught that's how you know. Like, oh, this is the one. He gives me butterflies. That is a trap. It's all a setup, and it's hard because you can see when women at church would ask Jesse that when he would bring up that subject, and he said, they're like, what does it feel like? He says, it feels like nothing. And like you can see that they were kind of let down because they're like, really? It feels like nothing? It's like that, but that's exactly how it is because you don't want the charmer. You don't want that feeling. You don't want those butterflies. That's even if they're 99%, you know, match everything on your imaginary list. It's a setup, and it's likely not coming from God.
Yeah, I do agree with the whole not feeling anything, because I understand. Well, I understand it on some level because I don't think you can have butterflies all the time. That really isn't an indication of anything other than maybe you're not coming from the right place if you're feeling butterflies.
Right.
Like, that's not normal. That's your body telling you something's off. You know what I'm saying? But we have been taught that that's supposed to be a positive thing, but it's not. You know what I mean? Like I would imagine, or, well, here we go, making up a story. But I would imagine if I'm with the person I'm going to be with for the rest of my life, I'm not going to feel shaky, nervous, you know, giddy, none of that. It's just going to be like, damn, this is calm and this is cool. All right.
Right.
What are we eating for dinner? Like, oh, wait, I got to cook it, so never mind.
Yeah.
But, but yeah, I get what you're saying. So that part, I try not to not even try, but I haven't focused on that part of my life right now. And it feels a lot smoother, you know, for now. But who knows what will happen if somebody does come into my life, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know how it will be, and I can't really make an assumption about how I'll act. I might fall back into the fallen state. I have no clue. So I have no choice but to wait and see what happens when that person comes along, you know?
Yeah, and just trust that. You start getting those, you catch yourself getting into feelings, comparing people to Jesus or Jesse, which is my new little catchphrase. Like, just know that you're wrong, and observe it, and don't fool yourself and try and force it, like Trevor would say, because you'll end up wanting to control or think you can lead people. Don't be that person. You know, women are not meant to lead men. You're a helpmate to the man. You know, and like you said about the whole
Feminists
sandwiches.
are triggered.
Yeah, you know, make sandwiches, not political posts.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, we were talking about that yesterday. I do think it feels masculine to worry about political stuff. It really does. Like, whenever I think about even delving into that stuff, I already know that's not for me. Like, I tell you guys all the time, I'm not political at all. Like, that's not my arena. Nothing. You don't have to be into politics to know right from wrong or to see good and evil. You don't have to do it.
And that's just, I feel the same way. Like, I'm not into politics at all because most of it's all bullcrap anyways.
Right.
It's all deceivers on all sides. It's just what brought me into being interested in it is seeing the right and wrong, you know? Just like you.
Yep. So, yeah, I'm sure there's a whole lot of other things going on, but I have to ask you guys before I go, can you hear the helicopters? Do you guys have them over there?
Well, yeah, we've had helicopters.
Helicopters.
I don't know if they're still, like, outside or what, or is that the National Guard? Are they still here?
Yeah, the military choppers are a lot heavier sounding. It's a much more, you feel the vibrations, and usually you see them, they're a lot louder. But yeah, last night I saw about 7 or 8 PD choppers all over, mostly over downtown LA area, a couple over the valley.
Yeah, very shook. I don't know. I got a little nervous today, but so do you guys think that this is going to end anytime soon? Because I'm still not sure why people are protesting here in our city. I'm still not sure.
Well, don't you find it interesting that, like, usually protests happen in the daytime? Why are they deciding, oh, it's 9 o'clock, better. Guess we're gonna protest. It's almost like they're wanting to make the police feel uneasy about it. Like we're not being violent. It's only 9 o'clock at night and we're marching down the street or whatever. It's like anyone I've ever seen protest, it was in the daytime.
Yeah, and I was I caught myself really getting wrapped up in a thought today because I do ponder from time to time what this civil war everybody talks about is going to be. I don't think it's going to be race. I think it's going to be us people that are still working, still producing, we're still doing things. We're going to be like completely opposed to these people that are like wasting time outside to where we can't go out and get groceries now because all the streets are blocked off. They're out there protesting, walking in circles like buffoons, and it's like they're blocking us from actually living our lives. And we're the producers in society right now. Like we're the ones that are actually keeping certain things going, and these people are blocking us from living our lives. And it's starting to hit me that we're rewarding their bad behavior, and I'm not sure why that's happening right now. So I feel like, I don't know if we're being played, so we do start to hate each other, because that's what I feel it's going to be. Not black versus white. It's going to be workers versus the slugs.
Yeah. And if you notice, all the people that are destroying the cities, they probably aren't taxpayers or working citizens, because if they were, they'd realize that, hey, how do you think this is all going to get rebuilt? Our tax dollars. And then, people, the people that do pay taxes are the ones cleaning it up.
Yeah, so like I said, that's throwing me off right now because I'm like, dude, everybody in that street, I don't know for sure, but I'm going to guess most of the people out there are collecting either that the stimulus or they're getting that $600 for that unemployment. Like, I just don't think these are working citizens out here, at least the majority of them.
No, they're not.
Because, like, shouldn't they be working remotely from home or something?
Well, if they were working citizens, they wouldn't feel the need to go out and steal a bunch of stuff. They could earn it on their own and just go get it and feel... There's nothing like that feeling of working for something and getting it, achieving it. Getting it for free, it's like, it's entitlement, it's wrong. And it's sad to see how many people, white, black, whatever, that are looting. It's insane.
Yeah, they're all wrong. They're all, there's no justification. They're not business owners. If they actually were business owners and good people, they would be at home.
Totally, and they wouldn't be out there kneeling in the streets to appease black people. Dear dude, we could have a very long conversation about that one, because now I see it. Now that we've had that conversation, now every time I see one of these police chiefs get down on their knees, I'm like, what are y'all doing? Get up. Like, exactly. They will kick you in the teeth, dude. They don't care.
Stop. I mean, like you said, you thought I was going kind of hard on the blacks on my post, but it's because I love them. Like Jesse said, I love everybody, and I'm not going to spare you your feelings because you don't want to see it or because you think I'm being too blunt about it. There's nothing hateful in how I share it. I'm just blunt and to the point. And what's the primary goal? Like, I'm not going to waste time talking about the fruit. Like I always told you, like, forget about the fruit. Let's deal with the root of it.
And it's interesting too is I have like an old friend of mine. She's black, and she has a family, and I really love these people. She's a wife to a friend of mine, and she said something about my post because I posted about hate. The root of it is hate, and good and evil, and all these things. It was one of my posts. I don't know. I know you follow me on Instagram, and it was she posted and said, she didn't sound like she was angry at all, but she was questioning me, saying that I'm being insensitive, and I think that's the problem. Is that people are so sensitive. I think insensitive is the only way you can really see something objectively and logically. Is everyone's so sensitive and so offended by everything, and they take everything personal that they're unable to really just see things as they are, because the truth just is, it doesn't have a feeling attached to it. So, I didn't reply it because I don't know what to say, because at some point I can't try to convince people that are committed to misunderstanding. My post came from nowhere but love. It's talking about family and values and character, and then, to think that what I said was insensitive is just like, what am I going to say? I can't convince anybody that's committed to misunderstanding,
Yeah, and I think that's how you know what you're saying is really just truth, because there's a calmness to it. You don't have to really say more than one or two sentences and be done with it. And somebody came for me today And strangely enough, it was my uncle's wife. And this is the second time she's done it, because the first time, I sprayed her with the holy water, and I was like, no, this is just hate. This isn't about Trump. This isn't about any of that. I said, this is good versus evil. I said, so, the sooner you can see that, like, the better off you'll be, because all this other stuff, these other layers you're adding on, that's just smoke and mirrors. I said the root of it is good and evil. So she didn't like that. So she just said, well, okay, whatever. And she just stopped talking. So then today, same thing, because I posted, I don't know if you guys saw the Larry Elder post where he had a picture of the rioters and he said something about fatherless children or angry or something like that. And I posted that. And then she says, no, that's Trump supporters and white supremacists. Okay, everybody in the photo was either black or like they looked Latino. So I'm like, what is she even talking about? So I said, no, now we're just trying to make it about Trump again. Yeah. So I said, no, that's not true.
They're denying reality. It's the same people, like what's going around, this new trend now and the media's pushing is like, white supremacists and Antifa are almost all white. Is Antifa mostly white? Yeah, but they could be Jewish, they could be other things. But if you look at, again, proportions, that tells you what you need to know. Just like the fact that blacks are 13% of the population, about 4% of that is 18 to 25 year olds, and they commit an ungodly amount of crime. And even if 50% of the rioters are black, that's 4% of the population committing 50% of the riot. That proportion is huge, and it tells you something. And to ignore that is to deny reality. And it also means that you don't want to help those kids. You want to keep them in hell because you're justifying it. They want to hear that it's the whites, it's Antifa. They're the ones starting it. It's like, but you're still out here committing 50% of this looting and rioting and crime.
Right. And here's the thing. I already knew there's like so many layers to that. Her just the person she has presented herself to be, like, over the whole time I've known her. Because I don't know if I told you, but like ever since I was a kid, I was always scared of her because she's very emotional and she lashes out a lot. But I figure, I'm an adult and I can see it now. Like, I can see what it is and why she's this way. So I said, so I did tell her this isn't about Trump. So of course that made her mad. And then she says, well, no, he's setting you guys up, because she's not black. So that's another issue. But she's like, he's setting you all up. Didn't you see the girl that was the white girl that was spray painting Black Lives Matter, and the black girl walked up to her and blah, blah, blah. It's happening all over the country. And I said, sweetie, that happened right down the street from me. Because she tried to make it sound like it was in New York or something, like it's happening everywhere. Mm-hmm. And I said, no, that was right down the street from me. And I said, just so you know, also, since you're giving false information, I said, it's not just Trump supporters that are out there. You mean to tell me that all of the black and brown people I'm looking at on my television right now that are circling my city like vultures, you mean to tell me that all of those liberals out there are Trump supporters? Is that what you mean to tell me?
She heard sweetie and saw red.
Right. But I had to give her facts, because I said, don't tell me that these are all Trump supporters as far as the ones that are setting up, to do damage and things like that. I'm like, no, because she tried to make it seem like everybody on the street wreaking havoc is a Trump supporter. Yeah. And I'm like, no, I can guarantee you the people that Nick caught on Sunday were not Trump supporters. I will actually bet my right hand.
There's no Trump supporters, and the white people that we're doing it are all like Antifa, super liberal left that are doing it all in the name of Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, so I thought, this lady just wants to fight now, because now she's saying something that's it's ridiculous, because she's on one hand telling me the people in the picture that I just posted, no, those aren't angry black children. Oh, but they're also all Trump supporters. I'm like, no, lady, you gotta pick a side here. They can't be both. So that really pissed her off. But then what I think is more offensive, and what the protesters should see as more offensive, is that there's a lot of people that are living cushy lifestyles that are telling you that you're oppressed, and they're telling you they feel sorry for you. Just like you guys said about the white privilege thing, it really is just saying that, oh, I'm so sorry. Now I can actually tell you freely that I think you're less than me. Yeah. That's what they're doing right now. And that's essentially what she was doing, because this lady's sitting in a cushy house somewhere talking about oppression, and I'm looking at her like, stop it. Like, you're a housewife. You've been a housewife since I've met you. You don't know anything about oppression.
And
so stop.
these white knights that are like wanting to get brownie points, it's like what I hear when they say, "Oh, I acknowledge my privilege and I have to do what's right." They're basically saying, "I acknowledge my white power, and so I'm going to use it for good."
Yeah.
Yeah, like
It's
I don't know if I
That's-
told you guys, I dated a guy that said that one time. And that was obviously back when I was in my fallen state. It didn't dawn on me that that's what was up, like, oh crap, that's what he's saying to me. But he's like, yeah, I totally get it, like, I understand that I have black privilege, I know that I can do this and maybe you can't. And it's like, oh my God. Now looking back, I'm like, damn, I was sleeping with the enemy. but
Yeah.
but it's like they really think that they're being sincere. And it's like I told you yesterday, Beard Dude, it's like they're all dancing with each other down in hell. The person that's kneeling and saying they're sorry for having privilege is the same kind of evil as the person that is saying you are oppressing me.
Right.
It's exactly the same.
It's the same. It's the same. It's two sides of the same coin.
Yes, there you
like
go.
that weakness. That weakness is evil because that weakness allows for the rape of that woman in Minneapolis that no one is talking about. No one's raising money for this woman, who all reports prior to finding her dead body in an abandoned car, all reports said that there was a woman in distress, white woman in distress, 3 black males in the car with her. Nothing. Where's Ice Cube on that? Where's Sean King on that? They don't care, and that weakness is what. That's why my message for whites: stop being weak little women. My message for blacks: get over your anger. You're not a victim. And that's not hateful. It's just those are the primary things that will end this. If blacks get over anger, whites get over their weakness, boom, it'll be a much better world.
Yeah, and like I told you yesterday, I'm glad we had a conversation about that, because that is something that we absolutely agree on. When you think about it, every time you kneeled down to somebody, not just physically, but any time that you bent to someone else's will, you knew you were doing it to manipulate. You were doing it to get what you wanted, or you were doing it just so the person would be quiet. Like that's you didn't do it because it was right. You know what I mean? And
Right.
because I know that you can bend to my will, I hate you even more. And they don't understand that that's how it works. It's like, just like when a woman's trying to get you to bend to her will, she disrespects you and hates you even more when you do it, even though she tells you that she wants you to do it. You know what I mean?
They get manipulative. They make little passive-aggressive comments. They'll make it about like, they think everything's about them, and it's like you can't entertain it. Like sometimes maybe it calls for a Sean Connery slap. Sometimes just cut it.
Exactly.
Sometimes you just cut them off, and then they'll they might feel like they'll be like, oh, do you hate me or whatever. It's like, no, it's just something like you can't deal with that spirit, so you just don't put up with it. Like if I was married and my wife was on one, I'm not gonna entertain it at all. I'm not gonna ask her why she feels that way. That's a trap. I'm gonna do it.
Choke her. I know what you're gonna do.
Where's my sandwich?
Exactly.
I hear all this talking. I don't hear any sandwiches being made.
This guy's crazy.
Yeah. So and really, that's just the point I'm trying to make. It's like, that's how I know it's just good and evil, because it's the same no matter what scenario you put it in, whether it's husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, cop versus civilian, whatever it is. When you do that and you're, one side's, playing victim to manipulate, and then the other side is playing nice and being apologetic to manipulate as well, you both are evil. I don't care how you slice it. So, I think that was what we were talking about yesterday, where I was telling you I just wasn't understanding what you were saying, because to me it is just pure evil, black or white. Like, they're just, one is trying to be like, oh, I'm innocent over here, please forgive me for my privilege. You're evil. And then it's like, the person that tells you that you're evil, they're evil too, because you're again, two sides of the same coin. But, I don't blame you for, looking at the white man and saying that they need to be stronger, because I do agree with you. And I look at black people and say the same. They need to be stronger in the sense that they can turn the mirror back on themselves and take accountability. So I agree with both sides, absolutely, because it is the truth, no matter how you slice it.
And don't be fooled or seduced into saying what people want Jesse to do, which is, well, how come you're not saying that to the whites? It's because there's different programming going on, and they need a different kind of message. You know, it's two different things. Jesse has the same stance. White people need to stand up. Black people need to get over their anger. You know, but then like the angry blacks will say, well, why don't you tell white people to get over their anger? It's like, we all know that if you have anger, it's not good, but that's not the major message that needs to be taken by most of the whites, because most of them aren't suffering from hate for blacks. They're suffering from weakness and hate for self. You know?
Yeah, and my little brother did not want to hear that today, but I told him straight up, like, bro, do not come back into this text with that discriminated, you know, oppressed stuff. You're living in a cushy apartment that your job pays for. You're a director for some freaking esports company. You are not oppressed, brother. You are actually privileged. There's a ton of white kids that want to be right where you are, right in this moment in life. So shut it.
Yeah, if you could acknowledge, if you're anybody, white, brown, black, whatever, and you could acknowledge and have grace, you have privilege already, no matter who you are, because you can acknowledge your blessings and you can see through that lens. Like, who's going to have privilege who sees through the negative lens and is depressed and is consumed by Satan? You know, nobody is privileged with that. I'm privileged not because of my skin color, but because I had two parents that raised me somewhat in a right way, and that love me, and that I have eyes to see clearly, and that I seek the truth, that I want to do right. You know, like, that's the privilege. It has nothing to do with my skin color, you know. It's attitude.
Not at all.
Attitude
and that's what I wanted. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying attitude and character is what defines privilege.
Yeah, the only privilege is being born again, and that God chose, you know, decided to wake you up. That's a privilege that you
being
can see.
Being alive is a privilege. I could have been aborted.
Hello. And I'm telling you, man, it's like when you wake up, you really start to see things so much more clear. And it's like every circumstance that you were stressed out about or angry about, you can really see, like, dude, that was nothing. Like, in the grand scheme of things, this is nothing, because life is simple, just like Jesse says. So like I said, that for me, that was my struggle last week. It was just, man, it's supposed to be simpler than this. And then at the end, I realized I was doing it to myself, you know. So it was just a beautiful awakening. But, you know, my only job to, you know, from now on, and I'm sorry, I'll let you guys go. I know I've been on a while.
Don't worry about it.
But yeah, my last thing is just, you know, my only job, again, is just to speak up when I'm, you know, called to do it. If I'm thinking about it before I say something, it's not worth saying. You know, I'll just let it go. But, you know, whenever there is a moment to just tell someone the truth, and, you know, again, if I'm moved to do it, I'm going to do it. And that's what happened this morning with my brother. And I noticed that when you tell truth and it's so undeniable that they can't say anything, that's when they walk away, because they know that they really cannot break what you're saying. They can't do it. You know, it really is. You're almost witnessing a demon just give up for that moment. They're just like, all right, you know what? I can't get this one today. I'll be back later. You know, that's seriously what it feels like. But anyway, that's it, y'all. I'm gonna just try to relax with the sound of helicopters outside.
That's right.
I feel so safe. I'm so safe.
Just stay still, make sandwiches, silent prayer. You'll be all right.
Yeah, and thanks for calling and talking. And if you ever, you know, we're your people. So if you ever want to hit us up, as you know, we got your back.
That's right.
And listen, I need, like, I guess I'll go on YouTube because I need some exercise ideas, because now that I cannot get outside, it's like they are really killing the flow here.
Oh,
for real.
I mean, home workouts, so we have to find improvisations, but for technique and mechanics, look up a guy, I'm forgetting his name, but his channel is called Starting Strength. He explains the mechanics when you're doing squats and the big power moves. Amazing channel. He's spot on about everything. So Starting Strength for mechanics.
You know I'm writing that down. Okay. All right, cool beans. Okay, guys. Well, let's all try to stay safe tonight. Keep your phones on loud, because if shit goes down, I'm making calls.
That's right.
All right, then. All right, take care.
All right, you guys. I'll see you soon.
Later.
All right, bye-bye.
We need to end it, too.
Yeah.
It's been a long time.
We'll
It's been a while.
Any closing statements for the fam?
Closing statements are: life is simple. It's very easy as long as you stay out of your head, doubt every thought, and realize that you're either serving good or serving evil. You're either doing right or doing wrong, and to just be the observer, and you'll start to see. And forgiveness is everything.
Yeah, stay out of your feelings. Laugh at more things. If words affect you, if people's positions affect you, the problem isn't you. So get to know yourself. You should not be bothered by anything. Keep a distance between you and the world. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Pros and cons, pros and cons. The world blames dad when it's really your mom.